Welcome to Acera's new employee slash mid-career seminar. In this seminar, we are assuming that you're either new or you're somewhere in the middle of your career, hence the name of the seminar. So the bottom line there is that you are not yet in your retirement, and that is a good thing because it means that you still have plenty of time to plan for your retirement. So in this seminar, I'm going to tell you all the things that you might want to know about doing that planning. Okay. And since you're curious enough about retirement planning to watch this, you probably have a few questions. Questions like, what do I need to know about my pension? What do I need to do, if anything? And if I need to do something, what is that? I have arranged the answers to all of your questions in the form of a checklist. So we're going to go through this checklist during the presentation. I'm going to help you understand some retirement basics. I'm going to talk a little bit about some pension math. I'll tell you about our retirement formula. I'll talk about purchasing service credit. And the reason I do that is because if you have a good understanding of how we calculate your retirement when it's time to retire, that helps you plan your future financially very easily. So you'll see what I mean when I get to the pension formula. I'm going to help you get a pension estimate. So you could do that today if you want. We'll talk about understanding retirement eligibility, when you're actually eligible to retire. And it may be sooner than you think. We'll talk about some additional benefits. I'll help you understand those, like healthcare benefits that Acera offers. I will talk about designating your beneficiary or beneficiaries for Acera's death benefits and keeping them updated. And then we'll talk about some career planning options. And what I mean by that is the idea that you are not going to work here forever. You're either going to work, a long career here straight into retirement, or maybe not. Maybe you leave early and you go do something else. I'll tell you what your options are regarding Acera and your benefits with Acera, no matter what your plan is. Okay, then I will help you make a retirement planning picture. And what I mean by that is peeking into the future and looking at how much income you might need in retirement and taking a few basic, pretty much easy steps now to get you on a trajectory so that so that you can enjoy your retirement and have the money you need to pay for your life in retirement. And as part of that discussion, we'll talk about starting a 457B account. And one of our representatives from the county's deferred compensation program will join us, and he's the expert on that. Okay, let's jump right in. First off, I see some questions up on the board. Let me just get a sense of these. Okay, so I have a sense of those questions. I'm going to talk about all of those topics, so I'll answer your questions as we get to those topics. Okay, first off, first topic, understanding retirement basics. So let's start at the beginning of the story. Who is Acera? In one sense, Acera is this acronym, the Alameda County Employees Retirement Association, but it's made up of a lot of people. There are 90 plus of us that work at Acera, and our entire job is to provide retirement, disability, and death benefits to our members. So that's all of you. You are part of Acera. You're part of the who that is Acera. And you're part of Acera, you're a member of Acera because of the position that you work in and who you work for. You work currently, or at some point in the past, you worked full time in a retirement eligible position, and that automatically made you an Acera member. So your membership is automatic by working in that position for one of our 6 participating employers. These are the 6 public agencies in Alameda County that use Acera to provide pension benefits to their employees, retirement benefits to their employees. As an Acera member, you pay into Acera's fund. So every paycheck that you get, you will see a line. This is an example of the county's pay stub. You'll look at the before tax deductions column, and you'll see a line that says retirement, and maybe it says your tier. I'll tell you about your tier in just a few minutes. And you'll see some money coming out of your check on a before tax basis. That is your employee contribution to Acera's fund with every paycheck. And every time you make a contribution, your employer makes a contribution in your behalf. And we don't let that money just sit around and collect dust. We invest it all over the world in a diverse array of investments. On a group basis, we have investment experts in-house, and we earn a lot of interest on that money. So that's why the arrow is going back and forth here, because it's these three sources of income, what you're contributing, what your employer is contributing, and the investment earnings that give us this big pool of money that we call Acera's fund. Okay, so then what do we do with that money? Why are we collecting all this money? Well, meanwhile, you are working in your full-time retirement eligible position, or just simply your retirement eligible position. Maybe you went down to part-time. That's fine. You're still an Acera member. And while you're working, you're earning credit toward retirement throughout your entire career. At some point in the future, you will stop earning credit toward retirement and you will retire. And at that point, you start collecting the retirement that you've earned throughout your career in the form of a monthly check that you'll receive every month on the last business day of the month for the rest of your life. You cannot outlive your Acera retirement. It happens every month for the rest of your life. It's amazing. That's the point of a pension. Is that it's a guaranteed source of income that you can plan for and count on in your retirement. You can get projections of how much that retirement allowance is going to be. So you can plan for it in advance, and then you can expect it because it's guaranteed when you retire every month for the rest of your life. Now you'll see the term here, monthly retirement allowance. There's some synonymous terms that you'll probably hear me say: pension, pension benefit, monthly benefit, pension allowance. These are all synonyms for the same concept. It's the monthly payment that you've earned and that you'll receive every month for the rest of your life. And just a little bit more about how pensions are special. Everything that you contribute to the fund throughout your entire career. So if you work 30 years, you're paying in with every paycheck. Plus, we are posting interest to your contribution account every time we earn interest. All that money, we're going to give that all back to you within your first 3 to 5 years of retirement. So the first 3 to 5 years that you're retired, you get all that money back. Everything after that is like this pure amazing bonus that you have access to because you participate in a defined benefit pension plan. It doesn't matter how much you contributed. It just simply matters how much credit you earned toward retirement. And I will tell you about earning credit toward retirement in just a few minutes. You're earning credit in 3 categories, and I'll talk about that in just a few minutes. Okay, before I get there, it helps to see this pension milestone chart and sort of think about your Acera membership in terms of this timeline and some of the milestones that you'll see along your membership with Acera. So the first milestone is your date of hire. This is your first day in your full-time retirement eligible position. Maybe this was your first day of work because you got hired right into that position, or maybe not. Maybe you worked in some other capacity for your employer, like part-time or as a temporary employee. So then this date of hire, this is the first day in that full-time retirement eligible position. Then 2 weeks goes by for most people, and the first day of your second pay period is your date of entry into Acera. This is your first day of Acera membership, and this is when you start earning the credit toward retirement. Now, 2 of our employers, Livermore Area Recreation and Parks District and the Housing Authority, there's no gap between these 2 days. So your date of hire and date of Acera entry are the same day. Everyone else, date of entry comes 2 weeks later. Okay, so then what happens? 5 years goes by. Let's say you work 5 years full-time or the equivalent of 5 full-time years. Once you have earned 5 years of service credit by working 5 years, you're considered vested in the retirement system. What does vesting mean? Vesting just kind of means guaranteed. And so at 5 years, basically what happens is the guaranteed benefits that you have access to, and as an Acera member, you start being able to access them in various ways. That's kind of what vesting means. So once you're vested in the system, you're guaranteed the vested benefits. You're guaranteed the guaranteed benefits, basically. Okay. Then what happens? Well, some more time passes. You get older, you work some more years. And at some point in the future, you become eligible to retire. And it's through some combination of your years of service and age. Now, there's a few different combinations that will get you there. I have a couple of slides on that a little bit later. It's a little bit different for everyone. But once you hit that combination, you're eligible to retire, and you can retire on this day if you want. Many people do not. Many people will keep working and earning more and more credit toward retirement because the more credit you earn, the higher of a retirement allowance you'll get. So then at some point on or after your retirement eligibility date comes your last day of work. This is your last day on payroll, also known as your termination date, or simply your last day of work. This is the day when you stop earning credit toward retirement. And then for many people, the reason that these two dates are kind of overlapping or they look consecutive is because many people will go straight into retirement at that point, and the next day after their last day of work is their first day of retirement. And this is the day, your retirement date is a date that you choose in the future. So it's a date that you plan for and you choose. And this is the day that you start collecting your lifetime retirement allowance all the way up every month until your death. That is when your retirement payments stop. Now you can see that there's another milestone on the chart, which is the continuance beneficiary date, death date. And that is because at the time of retirement, you will have the opportunity to name a beneficiary for a continuing monthly payment after your death. So it's like you're getting your monthly payment, then you die. Whoever you named as your continuance beneficiary at the time of retirement, they will get a monthly payment for the rest of their life in most cases. And that is known as a continuance. And that will conclude Sarah paying out the benefits that you have earned. Okay, one more quick word about vesting. Like I said, it happens at 5 years of service credit. That includes reciprocal service credit. What's reciprocity? Well, that's linking other California pension systems with ACERA to gain some synergy. And one of the synergistic effects is that 5 years combined across all of the linked systems gets you over the vesting requirement in all of the systems. I'll talk more about that in the second half of the presentation. I'll tell you the ins and outs of reciprocity when I talk about career planning. And then the guarantee comes from state law. State law tells us how to do everything, tells us how to do the calculations, tells us how to run the whole system. And the guaranteed benefits, the vested benefits, are that lifetime monthly retirement benefit, or also known as retirement allowance or pension benefit, an annual cost of living increase in retirement to that pension benefit every year on April 1st, and then a $1,000 lump sum death benefit. And there are some other death benefits that go with the different retirement options, but that's just kind of a basic death benefit that's considered vested. Okay, so moving on to tiers. Let me tell you about your tier, and this will answer the question that's up on the board about what does safety mean. Okay, so you all belong to one of ACERA's tiers. And to find which one you belong, first you got to find which timeline you should look at. Now, if you're a safety member, you should be looking at the bottom timeline. And a safety member is a sheriff's deputy or a probation officer, or there could be a few other sworn officer types that I'm not aware of. But those are safety members. Okay, anyone who's not a safety member is a general member. So you're going to be looking at the top timeline. Unless you're a general member who works for the Housing Authority or a general member who works for Livermore Area Recreation and Parks District, which is LARPD, and then you look at the general timeline for your employer. The way this works, you go into the tier as long as you entered ACERA before the end cutoff date for that tier. So for example, general members who entered ACERA before July 1st, 1983 would go into tier 1. ACERA general members who entered ACERA July 1st, 1983 all the way up to December 31st, 2012 would put you in tier 2. Entering ACERA January 1st, 2013 and beyond puts you in tier 4, and that's true for all of the 4 timelines. Now you'll notice that the safety members have a few more tier 2s with some different cutoff dates. You'll notice that the Housing Authority has a different cutoff date for tier 1. Livermore Area Recreation and Parks District has a tier 3 that the other employers don't have with a different cutoff date, different cutoff date for tier 1. Okay, so That so basically your Acera date of entry puts you into the tier that you're in. And the difference between the tiers is there are some different rules that we apply depending on what tier you're in. And that will become clear as I, give you more information about how the pension system works. So we'll do the retirement calculation slightly different depending on which tier you're in. And if you don't happen to remember your Acera date of entry, there's an easy way to figure that out. All you do is log into your account on our website. So you go to acera.org, press the login button, and log into your account. If you've never done it before, you have to set up an account. But once you get in there, you'll find your pension data waiting there for you, and it will tell you your date of entry, and it will just tell you your tier. So in order to verify your tier, you can just simply log into your Acera account. And you're saying you can't see the safety dates. Can other people see the safety dates? Because they're all the way at the bottom, and it might be an issue with your window on your computer. Okay, great. Thanks for getting that figured out and letting me know that there was a potential problem. Okay, so that's tiers. Now, I'm going to show you this slide, and I'm going to return to this topic later, but I just wanted to build some context, provide some context for our entire discussion, okay? Because this is the new employee / mid-career webinar, and what I want to do is help you do some retirement planning, some planning for the future, okay? So in the future, fast forward to the future, when you go to retire, financial planners will tell you that in order to maintain your standard of living in retirement, you're going to need to be bringing in 80% of what you were making while you were working. So your retirement income should replace 80% of your salary. It's also called income replacement. And that happens through a combination of different sources of income in retirement, including your Acera monthly pension. So that's going to be a big part of your income in retirement. Social Security is going to be a big part of it. And anything beyond that is your personal savings and investments. Okay. Now, especially if you're new, that might sound like um, an onerous target to hit. How the heck am I going to do that? Okay. Well, it's actually not that complicated. You all are very skilled at your jobs and you're good at math. And actually, there's some tools that I'll show you that will help you get some target projections that will help you get pointed in this direction. And it's actually not that complicated. Okay. Now, the reason I'm showing you this now and I'm bringing this up now is because I'm going to tell you a lot about your Acera monthly pension. That's my area of expertise. Okay, then at the end of the presentation, we'll talk a little bit about Social Security and getting a Social Security projection. And then I'll show you how to get projections of how much extra to save in order to get pointed at this 80% target. And then our 457B expert will come in and finish that discussion. Okay, so that's kind of like the overarching outline for our retirement planning discussion. And basically why we're talking about this now. Because you're new, you're not going to retire for a while, or you're in your mid-career, you're not going to retire for a while. This is why we're talking about this now, because we want to get you pointed in this trajectory. Okay, so let me help you understand some pension math. And don't worry, it's not that complicated. It's just a multiplication, okay? So the reason I'm going to explain this to you, even though retirement may be a ways off, is because this will help you maximize this number, your monthly retirement allowance for life. So if you know how this works now, it will help you get pointed in the direction of maximization of your retirement allowance. So when you go to retire, here's what we're going to do. We're going to do this calculation for you. This is going to determine your monthly retirement allowance, your pension benefit for life. Okay. We're going to do this calculation. So what you are going to get in retirement, you're going to get a percentage of your highest salary for each year of service that you work. This sentence is saying in English what this multiplication is doing. Let me throw some numbers in here and it will help you understand it a little bit better, I think. Okay, first off, the age factor percentage. Okay, let's say that the percentage of your highest salary that you're going to get for each year of service is 2%. Okay, just for an example. And then let's say that you work for 20 years full-time exactly. So you earn 20 years of service credit. Service credit is measured in years. Now, what's going to happen in terms of your monthly retirement allowance when we do this calculation is you are going to get 2% of your highest salary for each individual one of those 20 years that you work. So if you line them up, 2% plus 2% plus 2%, all the way spread out to 20 years, we're basically taking 2% and multiplying it by 20 years. 2 times 20%, 2% times 20 years is 40%. That means that your retirement allowance is going to be 40% of your highest average monthly salary. Okay, now let me give you another number just to finish out the example. Let's say that your highest average monthly salary is $5,000 a month at the end of your career. That means that this was your working salary. Your retirement allowance is going to be 40% of that. We simply finish the multiplication. 40% of $5,000 is $2,000. And that becomes your retirement allowance for the rest of your life, plus cost of living adjustments every year. And those are annual increases to your retirement allowance. So the bottom line here is that because this is a multiplication, the higher any of these numbers are, the age factor percentage, the years of service credit, the highest average monthly salary equal a higher monthly retirement allowance. So in order to maximize your monthly retirement allowance, you want to look at maximizing each of these three numbers. And these are the three categories where you're earning service credit. I'm sorry. These are the three categories you're earning credit toward retirement that I mentioned earlier in the presentation. You earn credit by getting older and getting higher and higher age factor percentages. That one's easy. You don't have to do anything. You earn more credit toward retirement in terms of service credit by working longer, and you earn more credit toward retirement in terms of salary by earning higher and higher salaries throughout your career through cost of living increases, raises, and perhaps promotions, or maybe even switching jobs. So that is how you maximize your retirement allowance. Okay, and yes, it is pre-tax salary. It's gross salary before any deductions are taken out. Okay, then there's a question. How do you determine the age factor percentage? Great question. That is a segue, perfect segue into the next topic where, actually, let me go back. What I'm going to do here is I'm going to break down each one of these three factors and tell you how we calculate those, okay, so that you can get an understanding of it. So here's how we calculate the age factor percentage. The question is, what percentage of your highest salary will you get for each year of service? Because it's not necessarily going to be 2%. Okay, that was just an example. How do we figure out what percentage to give you in the formula? Well, we simply refer to this age factor percentage chart that is defined by state law. Okay. So this is an example of some of the age factor percentages. Now, what you do to figure out where you land on this chart is you simply look for your tier. Okay. And we already established, how to figure out which tier you're in based on your date of entry or simply by looking in your Acera account on our website. Okay, so if you're a safety member, again, sheriff's deputy or probation officer, you're looking at this side and you find your tier in there. If you're a general member, who is everyone else who is not a safety member, you're looking over here. And all you're going to do is find your tier and you look at the one column for your tier and you forget about all the other columns because they don't apply to you. Okay, so the way this works is, let's say that you are a general tier 4 member and you decide you're going to retire at age 60. Well, we need to go do that calculation. We're going to come over to the chart. We're going to go to general tier 4. We're going to come down to age 60 and we're going to see it's 1.80%. So that would be the percentage of your highest salary that you would get for each year of service. You would get 1.80% of your highest salary for each year of service. Now you'll notice that the age factor percentages get higher the older you are when you retire. And that's why I said that you're earning credit toward retirement by getting older, because the older you are when you retire, the higher the age factor percentage, up to a maximum for your tier. And that's denoted by the blue boxes here. So you can see that you can't get more than the maximum for your tier. So like, for example, general tier 2 members, age 65, 2.43% is the maximum. If you retired at age 66 or 67 or 77, 2.43% would be the age factor, excuse me, age factor percentage you would get in the formula for you. Okay. Another thing that you'll probably notice is that I skipped a bunch of the ages, and that's because there's so many incremental increases they don't all fit on the slide, because the percentages increase every quarter year that you age based on your birthday. For example, if your birthday is January 15th, a quarter year after that is April 15th, another quarter year is July 15th, another quarter year is October 15th, back to your birthday January 15th, back to April 15th, so on and so forth. Every time you pass one of those dates, you age a quarter year, and you go up one notch in this age factor percentage chart, and you get a slightly higher age factor percentage. So if this were the full chart, it would say like 52, 52 and a quarter, 52 and a half, 52 and 3/4, 53, and so on and so forth. So that's why they don't all fit on the slide. And if you do want to see the full chart, we do have that out on our website at acera.org/age. So that is how the age factor percentages work, and that is how we determine what age factor percentage to put in the formula for you, and what age factor percentage of your salary that you will get for each year of service that you work. Okay, moving on. Okay, one more thing I'll say about that though. That's a lot of information. And especially if you're new, you may not want to remember all the details, or you may, just simply not remember them. If you remember one thing about that, the bottom line is that the older you are when you retire equals a higher age factor percentage up to the max for your tier. Okay. Now we'll move on to talking about the service credit. Okay, and then there's a question up on the board. If I worked as a TAP employee, which is the county's temporary assignment pool, it's like their in-house temporary agency. If I worked there for several years and bought the time back with Acera, do these years count as service credit as well? Yes, they do. And I'll talk about purchasing service credit in just a minute, like it sounds like you did or are going to do. And that does increase your amount of service credit in the formula. So service credit is measured in years, and you start earning service credit when you enter Acera. And you're going to earn service credit all the way up until your termination date when you stop working. Okay. And we measure service credit down to the fraction of a day. Every 15 minutes you work, you earn 15 minutes of service credit. That's why when you look at your service credit number in your Acera account, it'll say like, 7.862584. And all those decimal places are us calculating it down to the fraction of a day. Okay. Now you earn service credit while you work your regular work hours. Okay, so that's probably pretty self-evident. You also earn service credit during your earned leave times. So if you earn, when you earn vacation leave and you go out on that leave, you're earning service credit during that time. It does not count against you. The same goes for your other earned leave times like sick leave, management leave, if you get that, comp time, holidays, floating holidays, those all count towards service credit. You're earning service credit while you're out on that leave time. So that is a good thing. Those don't count against you in terms of earning service credit. There are some types of time, though, that you do not earn service credit. So if you ever go out on leave without pay, you do not earn service credit while you're out on leave without pay. Now, if it's a medical leave without pay, that may become purchasable, and I'll talk about that in just a minute. Okay. So then, purchased vacation. This is where you purchase extra vacation from your employer. Like, let's say you earn 2 weeks a year and you want to take a 3-week vacation next year. You purchase an additional week. Some of our employers will let you do that. When you take that 3-week vacation, that week that you mark on your timesheet for purchased vacation, you're not earning service credit during that week. So, that does not count. Now, I will say that I probably, if you purchase vacation here or there, I probably wouldn't sweat it, because it's like over the terms of the timeline of a long career, going out on a purchased vacation here or there is not going to affect your retirement allowance that much. And because, just because you earned a little less service credit for that. So, I wouldn't make a big deal out of that. Okay, sold vacation is where you sell your vacation back to your employer. That's your earned vacation. So that 2 weeks that you earn, if you're earning 2 weeks, you sell a week back to your employer. You don't get service credit for that, but you may get salary credit for that at the end of your career. It's possible if you're in tier 1 or tier 2. I'll talk about that in just a second. You also do not earn service credit for overtime, on-call time, or standby time. Okay, so there are some types of time that are eligible for you to purchase to increase your amount of service credit in the formula for you. And remember, like I said, the more service credit you have, the higher your retirement allowance. And that's why you would want to think about purchasing service credit, because it makes your retirement allowance go up at the time of retirement for the rest of your life by having more service credit in the formula for you. Now, here's a list of the types of time that are eligible for you to purchase. And the idea here is that if the situation was slightly different, you could have earned the service credit, but the situation being what it was, the law doesn't allow for you to earn service credit during that time, but it does allow for you to purchase that time later if you so choose. So some examples. The first category is ineligible non-covered service purchase. So some examples are, let's say you started out working for your employer part-time, and I'm not talking about working for a temporary agency or employment agency. I'm also not talking about working under contract. Those are not purchasable. This is just plain old part-time work for your employer. You were not in your full-time retirement eligible position when you started that part-time work, so you were not earning service credit. You were not an ASERA member yet. But then you got your full-time retirement eligible position. You became an ASERA member. You can go back and purchase that part-time work. The same goes for the county's temporary assignment pool time, which is what TAP stands for. There's some other categories that are kind of related to this: seasonal work, intermittent work, service as needed, project per diem. These are all categories that are purchasable because they're not considered contract time. You weren't under a contract and you weren't working for somebody else, an employment agency. You were working for your employer. Okay, then the 2 weeks between your hire date and your entry date, if you have that gap, that is purchasable. Unpaid medical leave is purchasable when you return from that leave up to a year per instance upon returning from that leave. So what that means is that, let's say you get sick, you go out on leave, you burn through your vacation and sick leave, and then you're just out on unpaid medical leave. Let's say you're out for 6 months, unpaid. You still have a job, you're still employed. They're just waiting for you to heal and return. So let's say when you heal and you return, you come back, you can buy that 6 months worth of time, and that will increase your service credit by 6 months when we go to calculate it. The unpaid medical leave is for your own medical condition. So paternity leave does not count. Sorry about that. I don't know why they did not count that. And returning from leave simply means that you go back to work and get a paycheck. And that's returning from leave. And it's 1 year per instance. So you could be out on unpaid medical leave for a year, come back, get one paycheck, go out on unpaid medical leave for another year. When you return from that, you can buy both of those years. I mean, really, you could buy the first year, once you return from the leave. State disability insurance leave, very similar. You can buy that when you return from the state disability insurance leave. Somebody asked about workers' comp. That is, I think that's related and or the same. I'm not super clear on that, but sometimes what happens is that you're out on workers' comp and you are receiving a partial paycheck from your employer, and you're also receiving a partial check from the state disability insurance system or the workers' comp system with the state. What happens in those scenarios is that you did earn partial service credit for any of the time that you were paid by your employer. So then the other partial time where you were being paid by the state, that becomes purchasable, and we'll help you calculate all that if that's the type of time that you're trying to buy. Okay, so then we have military leave during membership, a very similar concept. This is where you're actively employed. You go out on military leave, you come back, you can buy that time. This is not prior military service. That is not purchasable unless it was done before 1973, which it probably wasn't, since you're in the new employee or mid-career webinar. Okay, and then let's see. Let me check the questions here. Okay. Next category, redeposit of prior memberships. This is where you used to be an ASERA member in the past. So you did some work here, you earned some credit, you paid it in the system, then you terminated your employment for whatever reason, and when you did that, you took a refund of your ASERA contribution account. So we gave you all your money and interest back, and you went and did something else. Now you're back working here for one of our 6 employers, and You're earning more credit toward retirement. You're an Acera member again. If you want that original service credit back from that prior membership, all you need to do is redeposit the money that you withdrew, and we'll give you back your service credit from that prior membership. Maybe you don't have that money anymore, but it's going to be an equivalent amount of money plus interest, which I'll talk about in just a minute. Now, redeposit of community property. This one is where, and this probably will go to answer one of the questions that came up right when the webinar started. Yes. Okay, here's how this works. California is a community property state. So if you're married or you're in a state-registered domestic partnership while you are earning retirement with Acera, whatever amount that you earned while you service credit and employee contributions that you paid in, that's kind of, your account, that's considered the community property. Whatever you earned while you were married or in that domestic partnership is considered community property, and that is up for division when you go to negotiate dividing assets if you get divorced or you dissolve your domestic partnership. So this stuff is all negotiable. Somebody asked about getting, entitled to half the pension. I can't really give you legal advice. From what I understand, that that's kind of the standard that you start with. So let's say that you have a 10-year career. You were married for 6 years of that career. You get divorced. 6 years is considered the community property portion. So you would be looking at possibly your ex-spouse would get 3 of those years of service credit and a corresponding amount of contributions. But like I said, that's not a hard and fast rule, and that is up for negotiation when you're negotiating division of assets. Okay. If you want more information about that, we have an excellent page on our website, acera.org/divorce, and we will tell you all about that. But that is something that's negotiable. So maybe if you don't want to lose your part of your pension, you negotiate away something else when you're doing that negotiation. Okay. But back to the point of purchasing service credit and redepositing community property. Okay, so let's say that you get divorced. Your ex-spouse takes 3 years of your service credit and a corresponding amount of your contribution account with them. They get a separate account. That's one option. And so if they take a refund of their contribution account of that 3 years worth of money, we will send you a letter in the mail. We'll tell you they did that, and we'll give you the opportunity to redeposit an equivalent amount of money into Acera, and you would get your 3 years of service credit back. And that is a redeposit of community property. Now, you can't do it unless they take a refund. So that's the caveat there. Okay, then the last category, other California prior public service. This is where you used to work for another public agency in California, and you're not eligible for whatever pension, for the pension under whatever system they use, often because you didn't work there for very long or long enough to be eligible for their pension. You can buy that time as a Acera service credit. So for example, you worked for the Port of Oakland for a year. You're not eligible for their pension. You come over to Acera, you are now an Acera member. You could buy that year of Port of Oakland work as a Acera service credit to gain an additional year of service credit. Okay, and then there's a question. Sometimes we have to sell vacation earned to avoid overlaps, losing the days. So that's true. So there is a date usually at the end of the year, I think, where they will tell you that you can't have more than 2 times your accrual rate on the books, or you'll lose anything above that. And at that point, what you would want to do is either sell the vacation, your earned vacation, back to your employer, the part that's over 2 times your accrual rate, or you just want to take the vacation to just be able to go out on a vacation. Okay, so I told you about all of the times that are eligible for you to purchase. Let me show you the list of time that is not eligible for purchase because people always ask about these. Like I said, vacation purchase time, not eligible for purchase. So you purchase extra vacation, you go out on the purchase vacation, you don't earn service credit, and you can't purchase the time back. That's just this. Those are just the rules. Okay. Second category, non-medical leave without pay. You're out on leave without pay. It's not medical leave. It's not purchasable. Okay, like I said, contract or temporary agency time is not purchasable. And finally, other prior public service where you still have contributions on deposit with the other agency's pension fund. So just to go back a slide, we're talking about this category right here. If you worked for the Port of Oakland for a year, you paid in their system, you stop working there, you come over here, you want to buy that year, you have to take a refund from their pension fund. In some cases, you worked there for long enough. Let's say you worked there for over 5 years. You wouldn't want to take a refund. You may want to actually establish reciprocity with the Sarah if you qualify for that. I'll talk about that later. Or you would just simply want to keep your money over there and collect their pension when you become eligible for it. But if you only work there for a year or a couple of years, then what you might want to do is, and you're not going to be eligible for their pension, then you would take a refund of your money from their account and you could use that to buy this service. And that would give you some cash to buy the service. So how do you make the service credit purchase and how much is it going to cost? Okay. First of all, how much is it going to cost? What you will pay to make the service credit purchase is whatever your employee contributions would have been had you worked the time, plus interest. Okay. So for example, let's say that you're trying to buy 3 months of unpaid medical leave. Had you been here working for that 3 months, you would have been receiving your employer paycheck, and you would have been part of your paycheck would have been your employee contributions that would go into a Sarah's fund. You would have been making your employee contributions to the fund. So whatever that amount of money would have been at that time, based on the rate of pay and your contribution rate at that time, that becomes the employee contribution amount that it will cost you to make that service credit purchase of that 3 months of unpaid medical leave time in this example. But then also we will need to charge you interest. And the interest happens twice a year. On June 30th and December 31st is when we post interest to all of our contribution accounts. So every June 30th and December 31st that passes that you don't make the service credit purchase, the more expensive it gets because we have to add more and more interest. Because had you worked for that 3 months in this example, you would have paid into the system and we would have invested that money. And that money would have earned that interest. So you're going to have to pay whatever interest that money would have earned. And that's between then and now. So if you're trying to buy 3 months of unpaid medical leave from 5 years ago, that is 10 individual 6-month interest periods that it would have earned interest. So the bottom line there is the longer you wait to purchase service credit, the more expensive it gets because of the interest. Another way to think about it is the best time to purchase service credit is as soon as you can because it'll be way cheaper for you. Okay. And one more thing I'll say about that is that regarding the amount that it will cost, going back to the list of service credit purchases, all of these types of time at the top, you're going to be only paying the employee contribution. So it'll be a little bit cheaper than this last one. The other California prior public service, you're going to have to pay both the employee contribution and the employer contribution. And that's why this one costs 2 to 3 times as much as the other categories. So that's something to keep in mind. Now, like regarding how much exactly it's going to cost, how do you figure that out? Well, it's actually pretty easy. All you do is if you know you have one of these types of time, okay, you have one of these types of time, you're interested in knowing how much it's going to cost to make the service credit purchase. You simply log into your account on our website. You fill out the purchase redeposit request there. We will do calculations and we'll send you a letter in the mail with the cost of how much it's going to cost to make the service credit purchase. And we will also tell you in some cases if the time that you're trying to buy is not purchasable. But we will, if it is purchasable, we'll confirm that it's purchasable and we'll tell you how much it's going to cost. And at that point, when you get that letter in the mail, that's when you can decide if you want to make the service credit purchase or how much of the service credit purchase you want to make. Going back to the list, for all of the types of time that are not redeposits, you could actually just buy a portion of the time if you want to. Okay. The redeposit is all or none. So you can't only redeposit a portion. But for the other types of time, you could buy just whatever portion you could afford. And you have 4 different payment options. You can write us a check on a post-tax basis. You could roll over funds from another type of pre-tax retirement account if you have one. You could do payroll deductions. We'll split it up for you over time on a post-tax basis. A lot of people do that because you don't, maybe you don't have any money in your account that you want to write us a check for or money that you want to roll over, or you could do any combination of the 3. And then is purchasing service credit worth it? Let me check the questions real fast before I talk about this. Okay. Somebody's asking, is there an expiration on the eligibility to purchase service credit from your per diem status start date? No. Well, sort of. The only deadline to purchase service credit in any category, any of the categories, any of these categories is you need to finish purchasing it by the time you retire. Okay. Now I said that the longer you wait to purchase it, the more expensive it gets. So if you're purchasing it right before retirement, it'll be pretty expensive. But you can still do it as long as you finish paying for it by the time you retire. So any service credit you want to count in in the formula for you when we calculate your retirement, you need to have purchased by the time you retire. Okay, then there's a question, if there's reciprocity where the employee worked for 10 years for Alameda County and let's say 2 years for another county, how many years do you use for calculating service credit? Okay. So in that scenario, let's say that you earn 10 years of service credit here, and then you establish reciprocity, link another California retirement system with the SARA, and you earn 2 years of somewhere else. We don't use anything for the calculation except what you earn here. So we would just use the 10 years in our formula. They would use your 2 years that you earn over there in their formula. So it's separate. You would earn a retirement from us. You would earn a retirement from them based on the service that you earned in each system. Okay, so for the non-medical leave without pay, does that require confirmation by a medical doctor or some other type of official approval by HR? I'm sorry, I actually don't know the answer to that question. I don't know the nuts and bolts of that. This is a good time to tell you that anything that I don't know, my colleagues know over at Sarah, and we have a member services unit that their entire job is to answer your questions. So the way to contact them is by email. You can contact them at acera.org. And I'll just type that in to the Q&A/contact. You can email them there, or you can call them at 510 628 3000. And they will be able to answer that question for you. Sorry, I don't happen to know the answer to that question. Okay, and then there is a question, can we use funds in deferred compensation to buy service credit? Yes, you can roll over money from a 457B account in order to purchase service credit. Then there's a question, if I was a project employee from 2011 to 2012, can I still purchase my time? So going back to the list, project time does count. So yeah, that's purchasable. And if you haven't retired yet, yes, you can still purchase it. So The only deadline to purchase service credit is you have to do it by the time you retire. Okay, now, is purchasing service credit worth it? Okay. Because I gave you a lot of kind of abstract concepts, but this is something that you can figure out yourself. You can run the numbers on this yourself. Okay. And here's how you do it. Here's how you figure out whether this is worth it. Step number one is you submit that purchase request form to us and you wait for a letter from Acera. So on the letter, like I said, we're going to tell you how much it's going to cost to make the service credit purchase that you're trying to buy. So once you know how much the cost is, you can do step two. Step two is you log into our account and you run two estimates. There's a benefit estimate tool in there. So you're just going to click on the menu item that says estimate a benefit, and you're going to run two estimates. In both estimates, you're going to think of a plausible retirement scenario for you, like you are going to retire 10 years from now, or 15 or 20 or whatever it is, and you pick a separation date and retirement date that corresponds to your plausible retirement scenario. And you run estimate number one with that set of dates. And then there's a service credit override field. You put nothing in that, you leave it blank. You hit submit, you end up with estimate number one, which will give you a certain dollar amount of what your monthly pension is going to be when you retire. Then you run, oh, and here's a screenshot of that. You put in your separation date, projected retirement date, and then you hit submit. You leave this blank, override service credit, and you hit get estimate, and you end up with a retirement estimate. That gives you a certain monthly dollar amount. Okay, then you do the same thing. Estimate number two. You use the exact same set of dates, the same separation date, same retirement date. Okay, because we're doing an equal scenario, except the difference in estimate number two is you're going to add service credit purchase time in there. And then you hit submit on that estimate. That will give you a estimate with a higher dollar amount because you have the service credit you would have earned plus the service credit that you're trying to purchase. So what you do is you take this projected service credit and you add the amount that you're trying to buy. So let's say that you're trying to buy 3 months of unpaid medical leave time. Well, you got to convert it to years. That's about a quarter year, which is about 0.25. So you would take 0.25, you would add it to this number, put the new grand total in the override service credit field, hit get estimate. Okay. Now, like I said, estimate number two is going to have a higher dollar amount than estimate number one because there's more service credit in it. All you need to do is look at estimate number two and estimate number one, and you look at the difference between them. You just subtract estimate number one from estimate number two to look at the monthly dollar amount difference between them. How much more is estimate number two? Okay. The monthly allowance difference. Then you take your purchase costs from the letter that we sent you, and you simply divide it by that monthly difference. What this is going to tell you is how many months it's going to take you to get the money back that you're going to pay, because you're going to pay this amount to get the money back. How many months? So you just divide the monthly difference between the two estimates. How many months is it going to take to get that money back? So to give you an example, let's say we tell you it's going to cost $1,200 to make the service credit purchase. That's the purchase cost. And let's say the difference between estimate number two and estimate number one is $100. By making that service credit purchase, you increase your retirement allowance by $100. Well, when you divide $1,200 by $100, it takes you only 12 months to get that money back in retirement. And so when I say get the money back, that's when you retire. When you start getting your retirement allowance, if you make the service credit purchase, it'll be higher because you have more service credit when we calculate your retirement. So how many months in retirement will it take to get the money back? If it takes 12 months, or I mean, and then you can divide by 12 to convert it to years. So if it takes a year, 2 years, 3 years, 5 years to get that money back, it might be worth it to you because your retirement allowance is going to be higher starting at the time of retirement and for the rest of your life. So you may be retired depending on your lifespan, 10, 20, 30, 40 years even, depending on how long you live. So if you get the money back in a reasonable amount of time in retirement, then it's probably worth it. Now, if you do this calculation and it's going to take 10, 15, 20 years, to get the money back, then you start wondering, start thinking, do I want to put out this money right now to get a higher retirement allowance? So that's up to you. How much time it takes to get the money back that makes sense to you. So that's how you do that. There's a question up. Can you still get service credit if you are a SANS employee? Can you tell me what SANS means? I'm not familiar with that acronym. Okay, and then regarding the question, what is our savings plan called and what is the status of it? You might be referring to the 457B plan, also known as deferred compensation, where you can save extra money toward retirement. That is an entirely separate program from Acera, and that's something that your employer runs. So you would want to ask them what the status of it is. But we do have, if you're a county employee, we do have the representative from the county's deferred compensation program coming in at 11:15 to tell you all about the 457B program, and he can tell you what the status is. Okay, so I told you all about the age factor percentage. I told you all about the years of service credit. Let me tell you about the highest average monthly salary and how we calculate that. And this will be a lot shorter topic than the service credit. When you go to retire, and we have to do this calculation for you, we need to calculate your highest average monthly salary. We do that by using our pension software. Our pension software finds, based on your payroll records, it has all your payroll records in our database. It finds your period of consecutive highest pay from your entire career. Whatever your period of consecutive highest pay is from your entire career, that's what it is going to use to calculate this highest average monthly salary. And this period is known as your final compensation period. Now, if you're in tiers 1 and 3, it's going to look at your highest consecutive 26 biweekly or 12 monthly pay periods. If you're in tiers 2 and 4, it's going to look at your highest consecutive 78 biweekly or 36 monthly pay periods. It depends on if you're paid biweekly or monthly. And what it's going to do is, essentially, what it's looking at is for tiers 1 and 3, it's your highest year of pay. For tiers 2 and 4, it's your highest 3 years of pay. And what it's going to do is look at your total compensation during this final compensation period. So again, it's your highest year or your highest 3 years. It looks at how much you got paid in total during that entire time, and then it takes an average simply by dividing by the number of months in that period, 12 or 36, and that tells us your highest average monthly salary over that period of highest pay. So it's a pretty simple calculation. And this is the number that we use in the retirement formula for you. Now, the pay that is included, and I said this earlier, it's gross pay before any deductions are taken out, is, of course, your base pay goes in there. Some of you may have other pay codes, sometimes known as footnotes. These are often based on skills and education. And some of these may be included, some of them may not be included. And so the way to figure that out is you go to acera.org/paycodes and you pull up the PDF for your employer, and there's a list of pay codes out there. And you find your pay code, and it'll say yes or no whether it counts or not for the purposes of calculating your highest average salary. The one pay code that I do know, whether it counts or not, is overtime. Otherwise, I don't have them memorized because there's like 1,000 of them. Okay, now for tier 1 and tier 2, not for tier 3 and tier 4, if you sell vacation during that final compensation period, and if your final, that can count. Some of that money can count up to a limit. So that will be included as compensation for calculating your salary. Also, vacation cash out. This is where you have vacation left over on the books when you stop working. And if your final compensation period is at the end of your career, then some of the cash out money can be included up to the limit. Now, I'm not going to take a deep dive into this topic because this is a ways away, and it's kind of a lengthy conversation, 15, 20 minutes. If you do want to take a deep dive into that topic, You can do one of two things, or you can do both. You can visit acera.org/vacation, and it will describe what the limits are on how much vacation sales and cash out we're allowed to include. Or you can watch our pre-retirement webinar where I do talk about this at length. And all you need to do is fast forward through the YouTube video until you get to this slide. It'll look pretty much exactly the same. And then I will, I'll take a deep dive into that. And you do that by going to acera.org/seminars, and you can find a YouTube video for that. Oh, you're welcome. Absolutely. And you may have noticed I'm saving a few questions for a little bit later. And then there's a question, let's see. Does leave without pay for protected medical leave count as income over the last 78 biweekly pay periods? No. So your final compensation period is only going to be based on pay periods where you're paid, and it's full-time pay periods or the equivalent of full-time pay periods. So if you have an unpaid leave time in the middle of that, but your highest rate of pay, your pay periods are on either side of that unpaid leave, we're not going to look at the unpaid leave time. We're just smash all the pay periods together to get you up to 78 biweekly or 36 monthly pay periods if you're in tier 2 or 4, for example. Or let's say that you work your last 6 years, you're making your highest rate of pay, but you work your last 6 years half-time. Well, that 6 years half-time is the equivalent of 3 years full-time, and so we would smash all those together to get you up to the highest 3 full-time equivalent years of pay. So working less than full-time doesn't count against you in terms of calculating your salary, and being out on unpaid leave does not count against you. I'm going to save that reciprocity question for when I get to that topic. Okay, and I'm going to save that last question too. Okay, the final thing that I want to say about the retirement calculation is this limitation on benefits for Tier 4 members. So the way this works is that the law tells us, the state law that created Tier 4 back in 2012 that took effect January 1st, 2013, tells us that we have to cap the amount of annual salary dollars that we're allowed to use to calculate your highest average monthly salary. And it's based on the Social Security wage index limit. That's where these numbers come from. These do increase every year. So by the time you go to retire, these are probably going to be much higher since you're a new employee or you're in your mid-career. And you can always find what these limits are out on our website at acera.org/limits, and there's more information about the limits. But the way this works is, let's say that you're a general member and your highest salary and your salary for one of the years in your final compensation period is higher than this number, we can't use any more of those annual dollars to calculate your highest average salary. We have to cap it at this amount. But what happens physically during the year is, let's say that in October you hit this cap and you make more dollars than that for the rest of the year. Well, for the rest of the year, we're not going to take retirement contributions out of your check because we're not going to be able to give you a benefit. So, we don't want to take contributions out. And that actually leaves you more money to save in your 457B plan for the rest of the year, or in your personal savings. So that's the way that works. Here's the whole thing put together. In this example, Tier 4 members, this Tier 4 member retires at age 65 after earning 25 years of service credit exactly. Excuse me. So as we know, to determine the age factor percentage, we take a percentage from the age factor percentage chart for Tier 4. And the one that corresponds to age 65 is 2.30%. So this is the percent of their highest salary that they're going to get for each one of the 25 years of service. So we basically multiply these three things together, and that gives us their monthly retirement allowance for life. And if we multiply the 2.30% over the 25 years, that means they are achieving 57.5% salary replacement. So the $3,450 is 57.5% of their $6,000 highest average monthly salary, which is really good. if you're able to crack 50% salary replacement in a lot of cases, that is really good because you're going to be able to expect Social Security to make up a lot of the rest to get you up to the 80%, and then a little bit of personal savings. We'll talk about that later. Okay. But just to give you an example of what the salary replacement number is in this scenario. Okay, so somebody had asked, what dollar amount will be my exact, basically, pension benefit check at age 57? I started working in 2014. Well, that's not really enough information to go on for me to give you an answer, but it's way easier for you to do this yourself. You can all do this yourself, and you don't have to really do any math. You just need to use our pension benefit estimator to get a pension estimate. And actually, I'll show you two ways to get a pension estimate. First, I'll show you these salary replacement charts. These gives you a little bit different view of how much retirement income to expect in retirement. This basically gives you this gives you the salary replacement percentage. And then I'll show you the pension benefit estimator when you log into our account. Okay. So the first thing I'll show you is the salary replacement chart. All you do is you go out to our website, you hit the log. No, actually, that's for the next thing. For this, you go to acera.org/planning. Let me show you that page out on our website. I'll just go out to the live website and show you how to get there. Okay, so starting at our home page, you can do a couple of things. You could type in acera.org/planning, and that will take you right there. Or to navigate there, you just go into the first menu, which says members. You go to the third option, planning your future retirement income. This is our stress-free retirement planning page. Okay, this actually shows you 4 ways to get an Acera estimate, but the first way is to use one of these income replacement charts. So all you need to do is click on the button for your tier. I'll do general tier 4 since that probably applies to a lot of people. And all you do is you think of your plausible retirement scenario. If you happen to know that you're 30 right now and you're wondering what would happen if you retired in 30 years at age 60, you would simply find where those two numbers intersect on the chart. So at the top is our ages at retirement. On the x-axis and on the y-axis, there are years of service credit. So in that example I'm giving you, if you retired with 30 years of service credit at age 60, you would achieve 54% salary replacement, which, like I said, is really good. That gets you well on your way to that 80% salary replacement. One feature of this chart is you can see the effect of working less or more by simply going diagonally across once you find where your scenario intersects. So what happens if I don't want to work till age 60 in that example? What happens if I work till age 59? In that case, I would be retiring with 29 years of service credit, and I would achieve 49% salary replacement. If I work a year less than that, I'll just go diagonally up again, 44.8% salary replacement. So that's how this chart works. We've basically taken the age factor percentages and already multiplied them out with the years of service, and you can see them at any age. So that's one option. If you want to get and I like to call it a ballpark percentage, you can kind of let's say that you find in your scenario you're going to achieve 50% salary replacement, and you know your current salary is, let's say, $4,000 a month. Well, you can kind of think of it as having $2,000 a month in retirement to pay for your life from Acera. That's not going to be exactly right, because when it comes time for retirement, your salary will probably be a lot higher. Inflation will have happened, different things will have happened. So it's just kind of like a quick ballpark calculation. The way to get a precision estimate, and this is probably what that initial question was asking, is you go out to our website, you log into our account. Once you log into your account on Acera's website, it's known as Web Member Services, which is your member portal to look at your pension data. The first thing that you'll see when you log in here is an account summary. And by the way, if you've never done this, there is a link on the first page that says need an account. You just click that, you create a username and password, you answer some security questions, and it'll get you right in. You'll see your pension data when you first log in. You'll see your tier, you'll see your employer, whether you have elected reciprocity, your date of birth, employment date, date of entry. If any of this stuff seems like it's off, go ahead and contact us, acera.org/contact, or give us a call. And we'll look into that for you. You'll see how much service credit you've earned. You'll see how much you've contributed to your contribution account so far. What you're going to do is click on Estimate a Benefit. And this takes you to our benefit estimator tool. Then you think of a plausible retirement scenario for you that you want to get an estimate for. If your retirement is a ways out, like it probably is, you don't know what the exact date is going to be, but if for example, you want to retire 10 years from now, you just think about, put in a separation date and projected retirement date that's basically 10 years from February 22nd, which is today. So it would be February 22nd, 2034, not 3034. That's 1,000 years. So then you put in the dates, just to zoom in here, you hit calculate, and what it will tell you is a projected amount of service credit you will have earned should you continue working in this scenario. And then it will do a salary projection for you. And you have the opportunity to fill in beneficiary information here if you want, and you hit get estimate, and you end up with this PDF retirement benefit estimate. And what you're going to want to look at, just to zoom in here, is probably this number right here for right now. It will give you an estimate for some of the different retirement options that you can choose at the time of retirement. But these options, a lot of the differences between the options are based on how much you want to leave to a beneficiary. And you probably don't necessarily want to make plans about that if you're a new employee or you're in your mid-career. Your situation might look a lot different by the time it comes time to retire. So you can just kind of look at this number, the unmodified option. This is what most people select anyway, because it pays the highest retirement allowance of any of the options. So this is kind of the number that you're going to look at. Okay, let me pause for just a second. Look at the questions. Okay, so I'm seeing some questions about career planning, reciprocity, and stopping working. I will get to that in just a little bit. So I'm going to hang on to those questions for just a few minutes. There is a question that's been up on the board. What is the best month or day to retire? Really, it's when you have earned enough retirement to allow you to retire in the manner that would make you comfortable, or that would allow you to maintain your standard of living, is basically the answer. There's not there is some information about targeting a specific day out on our website, and you can get there by going out to acera.org. Scrolling down to this berry colored section here, and there's this article here, choose a retirement date, and it gives you some information about that. You probably don't need to think about it though until it gets closer to the time of retirement, because ultimately the best day to retire, you can retire any day you want, and one day isn't necessarily better than another. It's just when you're ready. Okay, so let me help you understand eligibility for retirement. When do you become eligible to actually retire? So we're talking about this milestone on the pension milestones chart. This is through some combination of your years of service credit and age, you become eligible to retire. I'm going to show you this slide for tiers 1, 2, and 3 first, and I'll show you the slide for tier 4 right after. Okay. So there's 3 combinations that get you to retirement eligibility for tiers 1, 2, and 3. So these are the 3 combinations. Option number 1 is that you are at least 50 years of age and you have at least 5 years of service credit, and it has been at least 10 years since your date of entry into Acera. And that's, I can't think of a scenario where that's not true for tiers 1, 2, and 3 because those tiers closed more than 10 years ago. So really, what you're looking at is 5 years of service credit and you're over age 50 and you can retire. Okay. So you actually don't need that much service credit to actually retire as long as you're over age 50. Now, like I said before, the more credit you have toward retirement, the higher your retirement allowance is going to be. So if you did retire with 5 years of service credit, you would have a rather modest retirement income from Acera, but it's still a lifetime pension, and it will pay for part of your life in retirement. Option number 2 is that you can retire as a general member with 30 years of service credit or as a safety member with 20 years of service credit. And you can retire at any age, even if it's younger than age 50. So you don't need to reach age 50 if you have at least this much service credit under option number 2. Option number 3 is you can retire at age 70 with any amount of service credit, even if it's less than the 5 years you would need under option number 1. So if you had 4 years of service credit at age 70, you could retire under option 3. So those are the 3 combinations for tiers 1, 2, and 3. For tier 4, you have 2 combinations that get you to retirement eligibility. As a general member, you have to be at least age 52. As a safety member, at least age 50. And you just need a minimum of 5 years of service credit and you can retire as long as you're over these ages. Or similar to option tiers 1, 2, and 3, you could retire at age 70 with any amount of service credit, even if it's less than the 5 years. Okay. So that topic is actually pretty basic. That's how you become eligible to retire. Now, like I said at the beginning of the presentation, you could retire as soon as you're eligible, like as a general member for tier 4 on your 52nd birthday, as long as you have at least 5 years of service credit. Feel free to do that. Or you could keep working and earn more and more credit toward retirement. Okay, so let me talk about some additional benefits really briefly. I just want you to know that these exist, okay? So Acera offers some other benefits, including medical, dental, vision, and other non-guaranteed benefits. There's also disability retirement, which is kind of a little bit different than the regular retirement. The regular retirement is where you plan to retire and you retire based on your plan. Disability retirement is where you become permanently disabled and you can no longer perform your job duties, so you can apply for disability retirement. That's a whole process. I recommend if you're curious about that process, going out to our disability retirement page on our website. It's under the first menu under members and down disability retirement. And that's where to find more information about that topic. And then finally, death benefits. So let me tell you some more about the medical, dental, vision, and the death benefits. Okay. First, I'll just talk briefly about the medical, dental, vision, and other non-guaranteed benefits. These are extra benefits. So I've been talking a lot about guaranteed benefits, the retirement allowance, the cost of living increase to that retirement allowance. There's this extra set of benefits that back in the 80s, Alameda County decided their retirees needed extra benefits to pay for their lives in retirement. So they started a reserve fund to help pay for these. And our board of retirement administers that reserve fund. They monitor it every year with an actuary to make sure that it stays sustainable so that they continue to offer these kind of benefits. But they're the ones that determine the rules, and their rules are based on keeping that fund sustainable. So their set of rules currently is that you need a certain number of years of Acera service credit to qualify for the medical, dental, vision, Medicare, and supplemental cost of living adjustment. Well, not the supplemental cost of living adjustment, that everyone has access to that. But the medical, dental, vision benefits, you can see that those all start at 10 years of Acera service credit. Now, I'm not going to talk in detail about, what kind of benefits these offer, because this is way in the future, right? You're a new employee or you're in your mid-career. If you do want more of a see more of the conversation about this, you can watch our pre-retirement webinar video. But the reason I'm showing this to you now is this kind of affects your career planning. This could affect your career planning because this is extra money to pay for medical, dental, vision, and Medicare in retirement. And so you might want to think about this minimum years of Acera service credit to qualify if you're planning out your career. You can see that the medical, dental, vision, and Medicare subsidies start at 10 years of Acera service credit. And this is not reciprocal service credit. This is Acera service credit only. So once you achieve 10 years of Acera service credit, you start qualifying for the first level of the medical subsidy known as the monthly medical allowance. That's what MMA stands for. And then the dental, vision, and Medicare subsidy. And then if you hit 15 and 20 years, you get a higher medical subsidy. So that's why I'm showing you this now, and not going into details because of this, minimum amount of service credit you need to qualify. So because of that, you might want to, like another way to think about that is this is to add a milestone to the pension milestones chart regarding the healthcare subsidies. You might want to look at getting past that 10-year mark because this medical, dental, vision, and Medicare subsidies represent a lot of additional money that you would be have access to in retirement to pay for those things. If you didn't hit the 10-year mark, you would be on the hook to pay for those yourself. Uh, so let's say that you've worked here for 9.5 years already and you're thinking about going and doing something else. You might want to try a different employer, get a different job somewhere else. Well, now you know that these subsidies start at 10 years, so you might want to actually stick it out another 6 months and get over that 10-year mark. Okay. So that's basically why I'm letting you know uh, that these subsidies exist, that these extra benefits exist at this point when we're talking about career planning. And then there's a question, the formula for the tier 4 slide. If you are for formula, do you mean eligibility for retirement for tier 4? If that's the case, then here's that slide again. To become eligible to retire for tier 4, you either need to be age 52 and older as a general member and age 50 and older as a safety member and have a minimum of 5 years of service credit, and then you can retire. Or you can retire with less than 5 years of service credit at age 70. So let me know if that's not what you were wanting to see. And then somebody's asking, what's the difference between separation and retirement? Separation is this milestone here. This is your last day of work. This is your last day on payroll. Retirement date is your first day of retirement with Acera, and they have to be at least consecutive days. They can't be on the same day. If you do any work hours on a particular day, you have to retire the next day. Is basically how that works. So your separation date, also known as your termination date, that's your last day on payroll with your employer. Okay, great. Now let me tell you about, since we're on the topic of additional benefits, let me tell you about death benefits and designating your beneficiary or beneficiaries and keeping them current. Let me define beneficiary for you. I didn't used to know what this word means, so I like to define it. A beneficiary is just someone who gets benefits. Now, your Acera beneficiary is the person that you designate to get your Acera death benefits after you die. Because you all are in the a retirement planning seminar, I'm assuming that you're not yet a retired member. So you are either an active member where you're actively paying into Acera and you're actively earning service credit, meaning you're actively working for one of our 6 participating employers, or you're a deferred member. You have stopped working for our employer, but you haven't retired yet, and you have deferred your retirement to a later date. So you're just kind of on hold. But the bottom line there is you're not yet retired. And so what we're going to talk about is your Acera beneficiary for your active or deferred death benefits. Okay. So basically we're talking about death benefits should you die before you retire. because once you retire, there's a whole different set of death benefits that we would be looking at. So this is death benefits that your beneficiaries would receive should you die before you retire. Now, if you're an active member who is not yet vested, which means you don't yet have 5 years of service credit, your beneficiaries would receive basically a return of the balance of your employee contribution account. So all the contributions that you've paid into Acera plus all the interest that we've paid on top of those employee contributions, we would give them all that money back. We would refund your employee contribution account. Plus, they would receive 1 month of your salary for each year of service that you've already worked, up to 6 months worth of salary. So for example, if you work 3 years and you die, they would get a return of the employee contributions and interest plus 3 months of your salary. That's how that works. Okay, now let's say that you work a little bit longer. You get past the 5-year mark. Now you're a vested member. Your beneficiaries have an expanded set of choices. Okay. Option number 1 is a return of employee contributions and interest and the 1 month of salary, up to 6 months worth of salary. This is the exact same as the one that I just explained to you. So that's option number 1. They still have that option. Option number 2 is that they could receive a monthly survivor's allowance to a qualified beneficiary only, which is spouse, state registered domestic partner, and minor child. Option number 3 is a hybrid of options 1 and 2. They would receive kind of a lump sum at at the beginning, 1 month of salary for each year of service up to 6 months, and then a reduced monthly survivor's allowance. So they would receive options 1, 2, and 1, 2, or 3, and they would choose at that time. One thing that I would like to mention at this point, I think I'll just go ahead and mention it, is our Board of Retirement recently made a change to this where they have expanded the ability of you to name beneficiaries in advance for a monthly survivor's allowance that in a way that increases the allowance. And you'll see some communications about that come out very soon, probably in the next couple of months. And what it's going to ask you to do is refile your beneficiary designation based on this new form that we've created, and you're going to check a box that allows you to name anyone as a beneficiary, not just spouse, state registered domestic partner, or minor child. And it will provide for an increased survivor's allowance to your beneficiaries. And there's really no downside to checking the box. So I just want you all to be aware that that's going to come. You'll see an email about that in the next couple of months. And my recommendation is once you see that email, go ahead and push the button. It'll open up a DocuSign form. You just fill out the DocuSign form, check the box, and you'll be golden. Okay. Yeah, and that actually goes to, there's a question up there. You have no wife or children, then can you name someone else another relative as a beneficiary? So currently, before you have the ability to check that extra box before we launch that new form, you could name anyone as a beneficiary, but they would only have option number 1. Which is a return of the contributions and interest and the 1 month of salary. So you could go ahead today if you want to change your beneficiary, and you could go ahead and do that. And then whenever you see that email come through, you can redesignate that same person as your beneficiary, check the box, and then they would be eligible for the monthly survivor's allowance. Okay. Yeah, and like I said, there's an additional question. A grown-up child cannot be added as a beneficiary. They can, currently only for a lump sum until we launch the new form, and then you could actually name them as a beneficiary for a continuance. So like I said, there will be more communications about that in the next couple of months. And then there's a question, does the up to 6 months mean they will only be receiving the monthly salary for 6 months and that's it, and the payments stop? I'm pretty sure that the 1 month of salary is a lump sum payment. They just add it all up and then give it to you in one lump sum. So if they took option number 1, they would get probably one check for a return of the contributions and interest. Maybe there's a second check, but it would be a lump sum for that month's worth of salary up to how much we can pay out. And it would be a one-time payment. Okay, how about a trust? You can name a trust, but only for lump sum payments. You cannot name a trust for a continuance for this monthly survivor's allowance. Because to get an allowance, you have to have a lifespan, and a trust doesn't have a lifespan. But you can name a trust or a charity for as your beneficiary, and it would be for a lump sum amount. And then there's a question back on the non-guaranteed benefits. You need to work for 10 years to have half of the monthly medical allowance. And after 20 years of service, you get the full monthly medical allowance. Now, it's the full dollar amount of a allowance that is paid out to you. That's a subsidy for being enrolled in one of Acera's medical plans, but currently it does not pay the full amount of your monthly premium. So there's just not enough funds to pay the full amount. But yeah, that's how that works. And then there's a question, is there a minimum or maximum time frame between the separation and retirement date? The minimum time frame is they have to be at least consecutive days. They can't be the same day. The maximum time frame, I don't think there's a maximum time frame. What's the difference between a vested member and a deferred member other than that they're not actively working? Now, you might be a vested member who's deferred, okay? A vested member is just simply an Acera member who has achieved at least 5 years of service credit. Now, if you defer, which means you stop working but don't retire yet, and you don't take a withdrawal of your funds, you're just an Acera member, you're just like kind of on hold status, and you die as a deferred member, your beneficiary would receive a return of the employee contributions and interest, and that would be the only benefit that would be available for them. And but you can, whether you're vested or not as a deferred member. So like one way to look at members is whether they're vested or not, whether you have at least 5 years of service credit. An entirely separate way to look at them is whether you're an active member, a deferred member, or a retired member, based on whether you're actively working, whether you're not actively working but haven't yet retired, or whether you have retired. That's how that works. And then there is Acera medical plan coverage for retirees. Yes, those subsidies are for being enrolled in our medical plans. And then, yes, you can enroll your spouse and family members in our medical plans, but there's no subsidy for them. The subsidy is just to pay the cost of your coverage. Okay, and then one more thing about death benefits is you can get more info about that at acera.org/death. That's our full death benefits page. I just want to stress, keep your beneficiary designations current. Okay, you can change active members and even deferred members. You can change your beneficiaries at any time. Okay, and you do that on our beneficiary designation form. You go to acera.org/forms, fill out the beneficiary designation form. If you want to check your beneficiaries, you log into your account. You click the nominated beneficiary link. It'll show you who you have currently nominated. If you find that your beneficiaries are out of date, like you see your spouse from 3 spouses ago, you're probably gonna want to go ahead and renominate a different beneficiary. And you can even click the link up here, and that will take you out to the beneficiary designation form. And you can redesignate your beneficiary. And as long as you turn it in as of today, then your beneficiary is redesignated as of today. Okay, before I move on, let me take this one question. Do your dependents qualify for medical, dental, vision after retirement? What's the formula for knowing what that cost may be? The only qualification for enrolling your dependents is that you have to have your pension check has to be able to at least pay for your enrollment, the premium basically for you and them to be enrolled. And to find the premiums, what you do is you go to acera.org/guide, and that will take you to our annual enrollment guide. and that has all of the current premiums in there. Now, there's no way to predict what the future premiums are going to be years from now, but you can get a sense of what the current premiums are. And this is a 36-page PDF that has all the premiums in it. And then, yeah, the question is: is spouse covered for medical insurance? You can cover them under the medical insurance. It's just the subsidies are only for your go to pay your premium. But yeah, you can enroll your spouse and self plus one and family. Okay, let me help you understand some career planning options. And what I mean by this is at some point, you are going to stop working where you're working for one of Acera 6 participating employers. What are your options when you do that? Because you know, you have a limited lifespan, you have a limited work span, and you're just your work span is not infinite. So you're going to stop working there one day. What are your options regarding Acera? Well, I'm going to give you like 2 options and then 3 sub options of the second option. Your first option is to work straight into retirement. Um, so many people do this. You just work it throughout your entire career. You earn your retirement, you earn service credit right up to your retirement. You keep earning service credit, you know, all the way up until you stop working and retire. We'll actually convert your sick leave, half of your sick leave, to service credit up to a cap. And more on that in the pre-retirement webinar. You can go work somewhere else if you want. We don't care. We're going to consider you an Acera retiree and pay you your lifetime monthly pension. You, like I said, you can get your Acera retirement at the same time. So that's option number 1, is simply when you stop working for your employer, you just retire from Acera. Okay, now, if you're not going to do that, if you're not going to work straight into retirement, you have 3 sub options. So option number 2 is you're terminating work before you retire. You're not going straight into retirement. And I'm going to label these options A, B, and C. Okay. What are your 3 options? So what we're talking about here is going back to the pension milestone chart. There's going to be a gap between these dates. Like you're going to terminate your employment, but you're not going straight into retirement. Okay. So what are your 3 sub options? Option A is you can become a deferred member. So I've referred to this a few times. This means that you stop working for your employer and you defer your retirement to a later date. And the only thing that you do to defer is you simply don't take a refund of your contribution account, which you'll see is going to be option C. But under option A, deferred member, you're leaving your contributions on deposit with Acera. So you're still an Acera member, okay? You're a deferred Acera member. Interest will continue to accumulate in your contribution account. Every time our investment team earns interest, we will post interest to your account, and there's no negative interest. And people ask me what I mean by that. What I mean, and that's just, you know, that's just the way that I came up with to say that there's no risk. The balance of your contribution account never declines. If we have a bad 6 months or a bad year where we have a negative return, your contribution account does not see a negative return. We do not post negative percentages to your account. So there's no risk. It's an absolutely safe way to safe place to park your money. And if you look at how much interest we earn over, you know, many years, like if you go look at the amount of interest that we've earned, actually, I think you can do it. If you open your browser, type in acera.org/interest. It's a shortcut, and it will take you to our historical interest rates every 6 months, and it shows you what we've earned each year over time. And then it has an average since 1993, 7.7%. So I cannot think of anywhere that you can park your money where you can earn over 7%, where there's 0 risk, where there's not a risk of posting a negative return. So it's a really, really good place to keep your money. So deferring is a really good option. You can retire later out of deferred status. So let's say that you stop working and you defer your retirement to a later date. You're in deferred status. Well, when that time comes and you want to retire, you can retire out of deferred status. So you don't have to retire straight out of active status. Or alternatively, maybe you want to come back and work and earn more credit toward retirement. So maybe you want to try something else right now. Okay, so you become a deferred member. You go work in the private sector or somewhere else. See how that goes. Maybe you change your mind and you want to get another job for one of our 6 participating employers. If you come back to work, you pick back up when you left off, you start contributing to the system again, and you start earning more service credit. Okay. Or as a deferred member, you could be refunded at any time. So let's say that you stop working here and you're not sure what you want to do with the SARA yet. You don't know if you want to leave your money here or you want to withdraw it. You don't know what to do yet. You need to take some time to think about it. Take all the time you want. You can be refunded at any time. You could be a deferred member for years, and then 5 years down the line, 8 years down the line, 15 years down the line, you say, oh, I think I should take a refund. We'll give you your money back plus all the interest that has accumulated during that time when you take a refund. There's more information on our deferred member page at acera.org/deferred. There's some good reasons to defer, and there's some not so good reasons to defer. So, there's a question up on the board. You could stop working at age 65 and defer and start collecting your pension at age 70, right? Well, the reason that you might want to do that is because you don't have 5 years of service credit, so you need to reach age 70 to start drawing an ACERA pension. Now, if you've already reached the 5 years of service credit and you're over age 50 as a tier 1, 2, or 3 person, or as a tier 4 safety member, or you're over age 52 as a tier 4 general member, and you have at least 5 years of service, and you are going to retire at some point, there's actually not a good reason to sit there and not retire immediately. As long as you know you're not going to want to come back to work here later and earn more credit toward retirement. So that's one of the things that you'll find on the deferred page. Because yes, your age factor percentage will keep going up, and we will use the age factor percentage based on the age that you retire out of deferred status. But you're missing out on months and years of pension payments. And what I've done what I've found whenever I've done that calculation is you don't catch up. You can't catch up based on just on the age factor percentage to all that money that you're missing. Okay, so then there's a couple of questions. I'm not retired, but plan to in the next 5 to 6 years. Can I now deposit a lump sum in my ACERA account? So you cannot contribute more to your ACERA account or less than your ACERA account than at your regular contribution rate that you have with every paycheck. Like you can't buy what they call airtime, which is contributing more to ACERA in order to get more service credit or more credit toward retirement. You can't do that with ACERA. That's not how the pension works. But if you do have extra money, that is where you would want to take extra money and save it in your 457B account or in other personal savings and investments. So that's where you would want to park that additional money. And there was a question earlier toward the beginning of the presentation. Is it true that people can be either moderate or aggressive with ACERA with the investments? You don't have those options with ACERA. So our investment team takes our $10 billion fund and they invest it in the way that minimizes risk and maximizes returns, all on a group basis. So you can't make any investment choices with your money with ACERA. But the place that you would want to do that is in your 457B account, and our 457B presenter will tell you all about that during his presentation. Yeah, so at 11:15, I'll turn it over to him. Okay, and then let's see. Okay, so this is option A, becoming a deferred member. Option B, establishing reciprocity. I see a lot of questions about reciprocity up on the board. Here's how it works and what it is. Reciprocity is linking different California public retirement systems together. So some of the other counties, there's 20 counties in California that have their own pension system like Alameda County. there's some other cities that have a pension system. There's a lot of municipalities, including counties and cities, that use the state system, which is called CalPERS, to provide pension benefits to their employees. So you can link any of those pension systems with the SARA, and by linking them together, that is called establishing reciprocity. And what you get by establishing reciprocity is synergy between the systems. Okay. There's a full list of the different systems that you can link together at our reciprocity webpage, sara.org/reciprocity. The synergistic effects, the benefits of reciprocity are listed out here. Okay. The first one is that service credit that you earn in all the systems combined get you over the vesting and retirement eligibility requirements. So let's say you're a tier 4 person, you're age 52. You have earned 3 years of service over in Contra Costa County. You have come over to Alameda County and you have earned 2 years of service credit. That gets you 5 years service credit combined between Contra Costa County and Alameda County. You're over age 52, you're a general tier 4 member, you're eligible to retire. Even though you've only worked here for 2 years, it's the reciprocity linking the systems together that gives you the retirement eligibility, the 5 years that you need. Also, the same thing for vesting. If you have 5 years combined among all the reciprocal systems, if you should die before retirement, your beneficiaries would get the vested benefits. Okay. So you're considered vested when you have at least 5 years combined among all of the systems. The second synergistic effect is that all of the systems that you have linked together will use your highest salary that you've earned under any of the systems. So let's say that you work for Contra Costa County for 10 years and you're making $20 an hour. You come over and work for Alameda County for 5 years, you're making $30 an hour. When you go to retire, you're going to retire after this 15 years in this scenario. You submit a retirement application to both systems. Contra Costa County is going to use your 10 years of service credit over there in their formula. They're going to use your age factor percentage over there that they have for you based on your tier over there. When they get to the salary component of the formula, they're going to see in their system that you have reciprocity with us. They're going to give us a call or really submit it, submit a request, and we're going to tell them what your salary is here. And because it's higher here in this example, they're going to use your highest salary that you've earned here and multiply it with the 10 years of service credit you earned over there. So you're going to get a higher retirement allowance over there. So that's the synergistic effect of using the highest salary earned under any of the linked together systems. And then Sarah would also do in that scenario a calculation using your 5 years of service credit here, your highest salary here, and your age factor percentage here. And you'd get a check from each system. The third synergistic effect is that if you're in tiers 1, 2, or 3, your contribution rate might be lower than it would be if you were put into tier 4. Another effect could be that establishing reciprocity could put you in an earlier tier. So if you if you were working in that, you entered that other pension system before January 1st, 2013, you could go into an earlier tier. Now, to qualify for reciprocity, you have to do 4 things. 1, you have to be a deferred member in every system you're linking together, except for the one that you're actively working in. So you have to leave your contributions on deposit with all of your previous systems. And you can link, more than one system together if you wanted to, more than 2 systems together, I mean. As long as no more than you have a 6-month gap between when you terminate the first job and start the next job. So you work for Contra Costa County for 10 years. You quit working. No more than 6 months passes. You get a job for Alameda County. You work 5 years. You quit this job. You get a new job in Marin County. As long as there's no more than a 6-month gap between when you start that job, you can start over there. And then you can link all 3 systems together, get the synergistic effects. You don't want to have more than 12 weeks of overlapping service. In fact, it's easiest just to not have any overlapping service, which means that you're not like on vacation and using your leave balances at the end of your job working for one employer, and then you start working immediately over for another employer. So just don't have overlapping service. They're going to cash you out for all your vacation anyway. And then you have to retire from all the systems on the same day. So that's how you do reciprocity. That's option B. Now in option B, of course, you're deferring. So you're basically taking option A and then adding option B to it. Now your third option, option C, should you terminate employment and not immediately retire from Acera, is you can take a refund of your contribution account, which would be, we would give you back all your contributions and interest. It could be a lump sum payment. If you do that, if you're just looking for cash, you're probably going to lose a third of your money immediately to taxes and penalties if you're under age 59. The penalties apply. And then the taxes, we have to withhold taxes. But in order to not lose a third of your money, you could roll over that money into a pre-tax retirement account. Refunds take 45 to 60 or more days. It's not an instantaneous process. Okay, so it's not, if you're looking for instant cash, this is probably not the place to get it. And what you're doing when you take a refund of your Acera account is you are waiving your rights to all Acera benefits. You're saying, I don't want the lifetime pension, the lifetime payment. I don't want access to any of the healthcare benefits or any of the death benefits. I just want to take my money and go do with it what I want. So that's fine. You have the right to take a refund of your employee contribution account. Now, let me just give you a caveat here, and that you've already heard me say one time already, is that if you're eligible to collect the Acera pension, or if there's a way that you can become eligible, it will be far more advantageous for you. You'll get far more money over your lifetime from getting the collecting the Acera pension than you would by taking a refund of your employee contribution account. Because, like I said it earlier in the presentation, when you retire from Acera, we already are going to give you back all of your money, your employee contributions and interest in the first 3 to 5 years of your retirement. And then everything after that is like a bonus for you. And that's because your employer contributions, that's how you're able to access those. That pays for part of your retirement. But most of your retirement, 3/4 of it, is paid by the investment earnings. So that's my little pitch for not taking a refund of your contribution account if you can avoid it. Let me see if I've answered all the questions that are on these topics. So yeah, if you resign or get fired, those are your 3 options regarding your pension. Okay, and then regarding reciprocity, if the compensation in the other county 12 months or 36 months is higher than the employee earned in Alameda County, what figure to use for earnings? For the salary part of reciprocity, we use the highest salary earned under any of the systems that are linked together. Then there's a question, how do benefits pay out if we do not work until the age requirement? So for tier 4, 52 is a general member, but you have been vested. So in that case, let's say that you have earned 5 years of service credit. You're a general tier 4 member and you stop working at age 50. Well, you just need to wait 2 years. And then at 2 years, at age 52, you could retire out of deferred status. Yeah, you can retire later. You can retire out of deferred status. Yeah, you would be allowed to access it at age 52 as long as you have the age 52 and then at least 5 years of service credit. And then what's the benefit of reciprocity? The benefits are those 3 benefits. Yep. So then there's a question about the tier, which tier you go into. You are eligible for, at least at Acera, to go into a tier based on your earliest date of entry and all of the systems that are linked together. There's more about that on our reciprocity page if you go to acera.org/reciprocity. Okay, so then somebody's asking if you worked at another county for 8 years, you got a job at Alameda County for after 9 months, you would not qualify for reciprocity. That's correct. So no more than a 6-month gap can happen. Now, in that scenario, you worked at another county for 8 years. You are probably going to be eligible for their pension when it comes time when you're eligible to, but you don't have the systems linked together. So you would get a pension from them, but your salary, your highest salary earned over here, they would not use it to calculate. Like you wouldn't get any of these benefits of reciprocity, but you still have a pension somewhere else that you will get to collect one day if you have enough credit in another system. Does reciprocity benefit me with 3.5 years of CalPERS and 24 years of Acera, with my highest pay being with Acera? So if you can establish reciprocity with CalPERS, because there's no more than a 6-month gap, um, your highest salary that you earned under Acera will be used to calculate your retirement over at CalPERS using that 3.2 years of CalPERS service credit. So yes, it would benefit you. You may want to talk more with my colleagues about establishing reciprocity if you haven't already. So you would contact us at acera.org/contact or 510-628-3000. Okay, so let me, I have about 10 minutes to talk about this last piece, which is making a retirement planning picture before I turn it over to our deferred compensation representative. So that's just about enough time. Okay, so you've already seen this slide. We've already established that retirement financial planners will say that you need 80% salary replacement. So you need to replace 80% of your working salary with retirement income in order to maintain your standard of living. Gene Hilliard, our deferred compensation representative, is going to try to get you pointed at 100% salary replacement when he gets on. But we'll just stick with 80% for the purposes of here, and then I'll let the expert tell you how to get to 100. Okay, and then again, you have three possible sources of retirement income: pensions, including your Acera monthly pension, Social Security, and then savings and investments. How do you know? Because retirement is so far away, how do you know if you're going to achieve 80%? Well, you can do it actually fairly easily using technology. There are benefit estimators and retirement planning estimators, retirement planning calculators that will help you do this. You don't actually have to do any math. The estimators and the calculators will do it for you. So one way to do this is to get estimates from Acera and Social Security. So you start off with that. You go out to Acera's website and you can get out some scratch paper when you're doing this, or you can just print out the estimates from Acera and Social Security. And again, so for the Acera estimate, you go to acera.org, click the login button, use the benefit estimator, you end up with a retirement benefit estimate, and then you're going to be looking at the dollar amount that it's giving you in your retirement scenario. So you're thinking about a plausible retirement scenario. And this that you want to get estimates for and get a projection for. So in this example, this person wants to see what happens if they target retiring at age 62. And their Acera estimate says they're going to get about $2,200 if they retire from Acera at age 62. Then you go out to the Social Security estimate website at ssa.gov/estimator. You'll log into your account over there. It will take you through a similar process and you'll get an estimate that will look something like this. It will give you 3 different retirement ages where you could collect a dollar amount from Social Security for the rest of your life every month. And then you can write those on your scratch piece of paper or just print that one out or save it as a PDF. Okay. In this one, I'm going to note that the target age that I'm targeting in this scenario is age 62. And so Social Security is telling me that I would earn about $1,700 a month from Social Security at age 62. Okay. So now what you're going to want to do to figure out if you are if you are pointed in between these dollar amounts, if you're pointed at 80% or if you're coming up short, is by using a retirement calculator. There are some examples out on our website. So Gene Hilliard will show you the Empower retirement calculator that you can use for the 457B plan. I recommend using that one. I'm going to show you the Vanguard calculator so I don't have to log into the Empower site. And I'm just going to show it rather than screenshots. I'll just show you how to do this live. Okay. So let me go over to the web. So a way to access these different retirement calculators, you can Google them. A whole bunch of them will come up. I recommend using ones that allow you to put in a pension estimate and a Social Security estimate. We have given you links to some of those on our Planning Your Future Retirement Income page. So you go under Members, you go down to Planning Your Future Retirement Income, or you can just go to acera.org/planning. Scroll down. And this is actually taking you on a step-by-step process of what I'm kind of taking you through in 10 minutes. You can take your time. It gives you a link out to the Social Security estimator. It gives you links to all of the different calculators you may want to try, including the Empower retirement calculator with the 457B plan. So I'm going to show you the Vanguard calculator just as an example. They all kind of work like this. This is a free calculator. It's just out on the web. I think Vanguard probably has it out there because they want you to buy their, investment products, but you don't have to. You can just use their calculator for free. Okay, let's say that I'm 30 years old, or let's say that a member is 30 years old and we were targeting retiring at age 62. Let's say that the income is 75,000 a year. Okay. So what it's doing is it's asking you a bunch of questions about your retirement scenario. You just put in whatever your data is, whatever your age currently is, whatever the age that you're targeting that you want to see, if you can target, what your current salary is. And here it's asking for a dollar amount or a percentage of your income that you currently save for retirement outside of Acera. Maybe you save zero. Let's just leave it at zero for now. Then it's asking you how much you've already saved. If it's zero, just leave it at zero. It's totally fine. I wouldn't stress out about that because we're going to get you pointed in a retirement savings trajectory right now. Okay, this percentage is the percentage income replacement that you want to achieve. We can just do it at 80% just for the example. If you do want to see what it would take to get pointed at 85, 90, 95, 100%, you could put that in there. Okay, one final number it's going to ask for, your annual expected rate of return. Now, this is a expected rate of return on the extra savings that you are going to put away to fill in the gap that your pension and Social Security isn't going to provide. So this is your extra savings that you're probably going to save in your 457B plan or perhaps another type of savings account like an IRA. The percentage should probably be somewhere from 2% to 7%, and lower if you are planning on saving your money in a more conservative investments, or a little bit higher in that range if you're planning on saving in some place that has a diverse array of stocks and bonds and different investments. Gene Hilliard will tell you all about that in just a few minutes. I'm just going to be conservative and say 6% here. Okay. And the reason that this part is up to you is the higher the potential income, like the higher the potential, the places that you put your money for higher potential earnings comes with an increased amount of risk. That risk is mostly in the short term. If you leave your money invested over long periods of time, like 10, 20, 30, 40 years, that risk kind of evens itself out. And if you look at the history of markets, they go up over time. Okay. So, over long periods of time. So I'm just going to leave it at 6%. Okay. So then it's letting me put in a Social Security amount. It was about 1,700, and an amount to expect from Acera, which I think was about 2,200. So then I'm going to hit calculate. It's giving me two graphs here. it's telling me in the gray bar how much it thinks I'm going to need in retirement to pay for my expenses, to maintain my lifestyle based on the data that I've already entered, based on what it knows about me. Over here, it's giving me a visual representation of how much income I can expect from, in the lighter green, my Acera pension, and in the darker green from Social Security. You can see there's a gap here. I'm not quite achieving what I need to pay for my life through the pension and Social Security alone. So this is when you can figure out how much additional to save. So let's say that I save an additional $400 a year in my 457B plan, which represents 0.5% of my income annually for retirement. I'm going to hit recalculate. The graph doesn't go up very much. Okay. Let's see what happens if I save 6,000, representing 8% of my annual income. So that's $6,000 per year. Okay. Well, now I'm in basically shooting distance of it. Let's see what happens if I save 6,200. Okay, 5,000 exactly. So I hit it exactly. So what this is saying is if this is my retirement scenario, if I'm 30 years old, I'm going to retire at age 62 after working that 32-year span. This is what I currently make. I'm targeting 80% income replacement. And I'm only expecting 6% return from that additional 6,200 I'm going to save every year toward retirement. It's saying I need to save an additional 6,200 per year in order to hit this 80% target. Now that might sound like a lot, but if you divide it up over 26 pay periods, it might look like a more reasonable number. It's only about $238 per month extra that you would need to save per pay period in your 457B plan. So if you would redesignate $238 in this scenario from your paycheck to the 457B plan, you would hit this 80% target 32 years from now, is basically what it's saying. Now you can tell that, it's 32 years from now. That's a long time. Am I really gonna hit exactly 80% if I do this? No, because it's not a crystal ball. It's, making projections based on, some an educated guess based on some, mathematical assumptions. The point that I want to make to you about this is basically this visual in this slide is what I recommend is you do this exercise right now. Okay. You get the Acera estimate, the Social Security estimate. You go use one of the calculators, the Vanguard calculator or the Empower calculator, and you get pointed in a direction. Okay, maybe you can save an additional 238 out of your paycheck in that scenario, or whatever it is for you. Or maybe you can't do that right now. Maybe you can only save 100 or 50, whatever it is. What I recommend is just getting started, getting pointed in a direction. Maybe you don't get pointed at 80% immediately, or maybe you do. And then you come back 6 months later or a year later. Do that process again. You can see it didn't take very long. You get your Acera estimate, you get your Social Security estimate. Those probably take about 5 minutes each. You go use one of the calculators, probably take you another 5 minutes, and it will give you a little bit different number. Maybe it's not 238 this time. Maybe it's 250. Maybe it's a little bit lower, or whatever. And you save what you can. You make your adjustment. You adjust your extra savings, and you kind of get pointed in a new trajectory. Your retirement is a ways away, okay? And so if you keep coming back and doing this every 6 months, every year, and get repointed in this trajectory, eventually you will find that through your pension, Social Security, and additional savings, by the time it's time to retire, you will have achieved the income replacement that you were looking for. And it actually didn't take that much effort. It just took basically 20 minutes once a year to, retabulate this stuff. Okay. So that's my pitch for that. There's some additional info, there's some additional slides that I will let you peruse on your own, because I do want to give the expert, Gene Hilliard, more time to talk about the 457B plan. And so he's going to tell you like where you can save that additional money, like the best places to do it. He'll talk about the power of compound interest, and talking about finding a risk level when you're setting your money aside that is comfortable for you, that will achieve the income replacement that you're looking for based on the level of risk that you're comfortable with. And we do have more info on that planning page about how to get enrolled in that, but Gene will take you through all that. There is some additional info here about um, additional places if you do max out your 457B plan, or if you don't happen to like, you don't, that's not where you want to save your money. We do have some lower risk option information. This is just a summary of stuff out on that retirement planning page and places that you can get more financial assistance. So the full expanded article, Sarah.org, is at sarah.org/planning. That was the page that I just showed you. And I recommend going through that. It might take you, I'll bet it's a 10-minute read. So I recommend going through that. Okay, so at this point, I would like to turn it over to Gene Hilliard. So Gene, are you there?
I am here, Mike. Can you hear me okay?
Yes,
All right,
I can hear
perfect.
you.
All right.
So Gene is the representative from the county's deferred compensation program. If you don't work for the county, most of this information, probably 99% of it, is still going to be valid for you. And he's going to tell you all that you might want to know about saving your additional money in a 457B account, which is an account that you all have access to. It's kind of like a 401k, but it's for government workers. So you all have special access to it. All right, Gene, are you ready? Let me get rid of my share here.
Okay. Share. Close this out. All right, how are we looking, Mike?
Oh, we're seeing your notes.
All right, that's not good. All right, swap that out. There
Okay.
we go. All right,
All
well,
right. Go for it.
let's go ahead and get started. Well, good morning, everyone. My name is Gene Hilliard. I'm Vice President, Financial Advisor of Emerge Financial Group. We're a financial services company in Oakland. Excuse me. We help our clients with creating wealth. We help our clients with financial planning. We do taxes. We do accounting for small businesses. So it's a pleasure and an honor to speak with you guys today. A little bit more about my background. I've been a licensed financial consultant slash stockbroker for roughly 20 plus years, helping my clients create wealth, maintain that wealth throughout their lifetime of their children, grandchildren as well. And I'm also a retirement counselor. And my goal as a retirement counselor is to help each and every one of you maintain your current lifestyle in retirement. Okay. What exactly does that mean? Well, the exact same paycheck that you're getting today, my plan and my hope is that you'll get the exact same paycheck when you're retired. Okay. You work for Alameda County, great government agency. If you spend any significant amount of time with the county, you're looking at getting probably half your salary from a Sarah. Okay. So you're halfway there. Okay. And when you add in Social Security and then possibly any other pensions that you have at other government agencies, you can see how you could potentially get closer and closer to 100% of your salary. But one of the best ways to help you get there, to get to that 100%, is to participate in the county's deferred compensation plan. Okay. So I'm going to spend roughly 40 or 30, 45 minutes talking about the benefits of deferred comp. And then if there's time at the end, we'll answer some questions. All right. So let's go ahead and get started. Some of you that are currently in the plan, you probably recognize that Prudential sold their business, their retirement business to Empower Retirement. That transaction closed in, I believe it was April of 2022, but everything pretty much migrated off of the Prudential website onto Empower. So if you're in the plan and you haven't created a user ID and password for the Empower site, I encourage you to do that. Do so as soon as you can. Empower is a great company that, and they specialize in retirement plans and retirement planning. Prudential, as many of you are aware, they're pretty much, or for the most part, an insurance company. So I believe it was, my contention that they're looking to get back to the foundation of their business, which was insurance. So they decided to sell off the retirement business to Empower. Okay, these are some of the bullet points that I'm going to cover throughout the presentation. I talked a little bit about bridging that gap between your ACERA pension and Social Security, right? We're going to talk about automatic deductions. We'll talk about the investments, distribution options, catch-ups, loans, etc. Okay, when you're going through this process of retirement planning, it's important to understand what you're going to be doing in retirement. What's the goal, right? Most people I talk to, when they talk about retirement, they talk about, I'm going to travel, I'm going to visit my friends, hey, I'm going to buy a vacation home, I'm going to be busy playing golf or uh, I don't know, volunteering, etc. So you want to kind of get a feel for what will your lifestyle be in retirement, and from that point you can determine how much you need to save. Okay. Many of you, as Mike mentioned earlier, are going to need roughly 70 to 90% of your pre-retirement income in retirement. And this is what you'll probably need. Some people say, well, Gene, why don't I need 100%? Well, there's a lot of costs that go away in retirement. For example, when you retire, do you still have to pay into a SERA? The answer is no. When you retire, do you still have to pay Social Security tax? If you're contributing to deferred comp, does that continue in retirement? So none of that continues in retirement. So more than likely, you'll need between 70 and 90%. But I'm of the opinion more is always better. Let's get ahead of it. Let's shoot for 100%. And if we need to settle for 70 to 90%, then so be it. Where will this 70 to 90% of your income come from? Well, Social Security. You're going to have your pension, other retirement plans, such as a 401k from a previous employer, maybe you're a 457 with the county. Maybe you have invested your money in investment property and you plan on living off the rent. Or maybe you're going to do a little bit of work in retirement. So these are the buckets where you're going to receive income from when the time comes. Okay. One of the easiest ways to save towards retirement is, again, through the deferred compensation plan through the county. People ask me all the time, what's a good number to contribute in terms of a percent of my salary? Typically, I tell people you want to contribute between 10 and 15% of your salary into deferred comp, but oftentimes it depends. 10 to 15% too much? Well, let's start somewhere. 100 bucks, 200 bucks, 250. Let's start somewhere and then build on that over time. Couple of ways in which you can invest from a tax advantage perspective. You can invest in the pre-tax version of deferred comp, which, by the way, it's not a 401k, it's not a 403b. This is a 457b. Okay, so you can invest pre-tax. Have you already filed your tax return for 2023? And did you end up owing? Well, guess what? If you contribute to the pre-tax version of deferred comp, there's a very good chance that you're not going to owe anymore. You may even get some money back if you invest in the pre-tax version of deferred comp. Check with your tax person to confirm that information, okay? You can also invest in the Roth version of deferred comp. How does that work? Well, the Roth version is you're putting money into the deferred compensation plan. You've already paid taxes on it, but guess what? The growth of your money will be tax-free to you in retirement. Okay, so you can invest pre-tax, you can invest in the Roth, you could in fact invest in both if that's what you prefer. Okay, here's a side-by-side comparison of how the pre-tax and the Roth version works. In relationship to your paycheck, if you invest pre-tax, chances are you're not going to see a dollar for dollar difference in your paycheck. So roughly for every $100 you put in deferred comp, figure your paycheck's going to change by like $72. If you invest in the Roth, if you invest $100, your paycheck's going to change by $100. How does the taxation work when you retire? Well, when you retire from the county and you've invested pre-tax and you decide you want to pull money out, 100% of the money is going to be taxable. Okay, 100% is going to be taxable because you haven't paid taxes on the money that went in, nor have you paid taxes on any earnings. But guess what? If you believe you're going to be in a lower tax bracket when you retire, or if you believe that your income will go down in retirement, then you're going to be paying less in taxes. Okay. But if you believe your income is going to go up, or you believe your taxes or your income's going to go up, or your tax rate's going to go up, if you invest in the Roth, then you don't have to worry about that because the income is tax free to you. Okay. Another great benefit of deferred comp is that there's the beauty of compounding. Your money grows much, much faster than, say, investing in a regular savings account. You can use the rule of 72 if you're looking to determine how long will it take for my money to double. How does the rule of 72 work? Well, just take two numbers. If you multiply those two numbers together, and if they equal 72 or 70 or thereabout, you can determine when your account's going to double. For example, 8 times 9 is 72. If you got a rate of return of 8% average per year, it would take 9 years for your account to double. See how that worked? 8 times 9, rate of return of 8%, your money will double in 9 years. Okay. And it could potentially triple in 19 years. Okay. So your money grows much, much faster. Your money works harder for you. It potentially will grow much faster. Okay. How much can you contribute? Well, in 2024, the maximum if you're under 50 is $23,000 even. So in 2024, you can put away $24,000 a year. If you're 50 and over, the IRS will allow you to put away an additional $7,500, bringing your total to $30,500 that you can contribute to deferred comp. And in some cases, if you qualify, the IRS will allow you to put away $46,000 a year, which is called the 3-year catch-up. You can do that for 3 years. Reach out to me at a later date if you think this is something that you're interested in, and I'm referring to the 3-year catch-up. Some people have money sitting in the credit union. Maybe they've inherited money. They want to figure out a way to get that into deferred comp. You can't just write a check and put 46,000 in deferred comp. So we'd have to kind of tweak the system. We'd have to say, all right, the county's going to take 60, 70% of your paycheck, right? And then when you get paid, you don't have enough money to cover your bills. Well, you can go to the credit union, that account that you have, and use that money to pay the bills. So that's a way you can indirectly get a lump sum or a huge dollar amount into deferred comp. So reach out to me later if you're interested in hearing a little bit more about the 3-year catch-up, like I said. Okay. Here's a hypothetical example of a person who's 25 years old. They come to me and they say, Gene, I'd like to retire at 65. What do I need to do to create a pretty significant balance in my deferred comp account? So I tell this person, all right, you're going to need to put away $300 a month. All right. So $300 a month for 40 years, this person is going to have, assuming a 6% rate of return, you're looking at $575,000. So you can't tell me that amount of money won't change this person's retirement. Okay. But here's another hypothetical example of a person who's 35 years old. Maybe they heard my presentation 10 years prior. They were hard-headed. They didn't listen. but they're like, Gene, I had student loan debt. I wasn't making a whole lot of money with the county. I just flat out couldn't afford it. But I'm in a position now where I could put some money away towards retirement. Okay. So they're 35 years old, but because they wait, it's going to cost you a little bit more per month. So I'm encouraging this person to do 500 bucks a month. They too want to retire at age 65. So in 30 years, you're looking at a balance of 490, 489, 628 to be exact. Okay. And here's another example of a person who's 45 years old, contributing $1,000 a month. For the next 20 years, they want to retire at 65. You're looking at $455,000. So point of this slide is yes, we want you to start as soon as possible to get the most bang for your buck, but all is not lost. If you haven't saved towards retirement up to that point, you can still create a pretty significant amount of money in a deferred comp account. And I see that there's a question: how does fluctuation in the stock market affect your investments? Well, you're investing in the stock market, right? The money is going to rise and fall with the stock market. The average rate of return, if you look at the history of the stock market, is about 8-9%. I'm assuming a 6% rate of return. Okay. But say, for example, you're not interested in taking on any risk. You don't have to. There's some guaranteed investments in deferred comp. Not going to get you uh, not going to get you a huge rate of return, but at least you'll know your money is safe. And I'll talk a little bit about that a little bit later. Okay. Do you have a 401k, 403b, 457 at a different government agency or prior employer? Know that you could consolidate. You can roll your money into deferred comp if you choose to do so. Reach out to me, schedule an appointment. Let's kind of research, let's analyze both accounts and see if it makes more sense to roll your money over. Once you leave county service, you have flexible distribution options. Doesn't matter your age, right? With a 401k or an IRA, as many of you are aware, you put money into that account, but if you want to touch it or you want to withdraw it for any reason before you're 59 and a half, you're going to be penalized and taxed. But with deferred comp, which is a 457B, there is never a penalty. Now, you may be on the hook for taxes, but there's never a penalty. Okay. You can pull money out once you retire or leave the county. You can pull money out monthly. You can take a lump sum. You can start and stop these monthly disbursements. It's completely up to you. It's your money. Whichever investment or flexible distribution option you're interested in, I'm sure we can accommodate you. Okay. Know also that your money's not 100% tied up while you're still working. But a lot of 401ks, your money is tied up. You can't withdraw it for any reason until you leave that employer. Okay. But recognize here that if by chance you need access to your money, you can borrow against your deferred comp. You can take out 50% of your account or $50,000, whichever is less. You use the money for whatever you want, right? A lot of folks back in 2008 borrowed against their deferred comp to purchase their first house, right? When folks unfortunately were losing their homes, you were able to buy houses for 50 cents on the dollar. You can borrow, or if you want to borrow to pay for your kids' education for whatever reason, you can do that. Or if you want to borrow to pay off some debt, you can do that. But I encourage each and every one of you, use that borrowing feature responsibly, because this is your money, this is your retirement, this is your future. You don't want to squander it for any reason. Okay. Investments. Let's talk about the investments. There are roughly 15 investments in deferred comp. As I mentioned before, if you're not a risk taker, there's the Alameda County Stable Value Fund. If you're a socially responsible investor, there's investments in here for you. If you're an index fund investor, there's an investment in there for you. Okay. There are two types of investors. Which one are you? Are you a do-it-myself? Right? You're going to do your homework. You're going to do the research and see if you can create a portfolio that makes sense for you and your family. Or are you a help me do it? Do you need some help? Okay. If you are a do-it-myselfer, I encourage you again, do your homework, go to Alameda County DCP, research each of the funds, and then you can choose your own investments. And here's some examples of some of the investments that I'm talking about. The first one, stable value, that's the one that's guaranteed. If you're a socially responsible investor, there's the impact sustainable allocation. If you are a person that prefers index funds, there's the Fidelity 500 index, there's the Fidelity mid cap index, and then there's the State Street Global All Cap Equity Index. So those are the index funds that are available to you. Okay. Um, if you need help and you're looking for a asset allocation tool that you can use, there is Goalmaker. Goalmaker is an award-winning uh, program that was created by, at the time, it was created by Prudential and the county. And now that Empower took over, they're responsible for Goalmaker. You tell us what your investor profile is. You tell us, oh, actually, you know what? Now that I think about it, when everything moved over to Empower, there is the Makeda Investment Group, who now is responsible for the Goalmaker portfolios. Okay, so automatic rebalancing is included with that, age adjustment. So as you get closer and closer to retirement, the account gets more and more conservative over time. There's a couple of questions here I figured I would answer. Let's see, 457 does Empower pay the amount shown on the estimated monthly income worksheet or just for a period of time? I believe what you may be referring to is it's like a retirement income calculator. You put your information in there and it tells you roughly how much you can expect to receive from your deferred comp account. And what they're estimating there, it's not for the rest of your life. They're estimating how much you will receive for as long as your life expectancy is that's within the program. So, for example, you can put in, I plan on living for until I'm 85. Then at that point, it will estimate how much you can anticipate receiving until age 85. So it may or may not be for the rest of your life, but again, it's just an estimate. Okay, what is the starting point of the process of borrowing against? You can start, and the question is about borrowing against your deferred comp. You can borrow as soon as you have at least $1,000. Oh, actually, I'm sorry, at least $2,000. If you have $2,000 in deferred comp, then you can borrow 50% of that. I mean, if you don't have anything in deferred comp, then there isn't a whole lot you can borrow from in the first place. But typically, if your balance is somewhere in the neighborhood of a couple $1,000s, you can then borrow against your deferred comp. Okay. All right, so I was just talking about Empower. Empower is a great tool. Again, or the Goalmaker portfolios is a great tool. Just tell us your investor profile, tell us when you anticipate retiring, and then the system will do the rest. Okay, fees and expenses, it's not free. There is a cost associated with investing in deferred comp, but it's very little. You're looking at roughly 0.20% of your portfolio is a standard charge, and this is annually to participate. Now, depending on which mutual funds you invest in, there could be an additional charge, which is called the expense ratio. Okay. For example, if you're the type of person that wants to invest in index funds, index funds are considered passive investing, right? You're getting an index, S&P 500, boom, that's what you're going to get. And whatever rate of return the S&P 500 gets, that's what you're going to get. Or if it loses value, then you're going to lose money. There is no active management with that, so it's going to be cheaper. The index funds that are in the plan, I think they're charging 0.01%, so it's very little. But if you're interested in picking a mutual fund where there is a manager who's going in there buying and selling stock or bonds on your behalf, that's active investing, it's going to cost you more. On average, within the plan, if you're looking for a mutual fund that's an active investing mutual fund, you're looking at paying somewhere in the neighborhood of 0.50% to 1%, somewhere in there. Okay, so just understand the impact of fees on your portfolio going forward. Okay, hopefully I covered all of the these bullet points here. Talked about the loans. I talked about catch up, consolidating, etc. What's next? Well, the first thing you want to do is use that worksheet that Mike talked about earlier through Vanguard, or you can use the Empower Retirement Income Calculator and estimate, put in the information about how much you anticipate receiving from Acera. So go on the Acera website, use that calculator. Okay, sign up for deferred comp. Okay, log on to AlamidaCountyDCP.com and then follow the prompts to sign up for deferred comp. Start with a number that you feel comfortable with, 50 bucks, 100 bucks. But remember what I talked about earlier. It's probably optimal for you to invest 10 to 15% of your salary into deferred comp. But again, start somewhere. Okay. And let's see, Natalie, did you say there is a fee for deferred comp? Yes, I did. There is a fee to participate in deferred comp. Expect to pay 0.20% per year minimum. Okay, 0.20% per year minimum. Now, depending on what mutual fund you're investing in, there could be a fee associated with that, but it's not as transparent as I would like. What do I mean by that? So excuse me. So let's say, for example, you chose a mutual fund that charges an expense ratio of 0.50% per year, for example. And it's the XYZ mutual fund, 0.50% per year. And you're looking through the investments, and that XYZ mutual fund should have a rate of return of 10%, right? But you decide, I'm going to make sure Gene's on the up and up. I want to confirm that I'm going to get that 10%. So you're crunching the numbers within your account of the XYZ mutual fund, and you go, aha, the rate of return is 9.5%. Something's up. I'm supposed to have a rate of return of 10%. So you call me and I say, the number that you're receiving, the 9.5%, is accurate. And you're like, well, where's that difference of 0.50? That is the expense ratio that you're charged. So as you can see, you don't really see it. It happens in the background. Okay, so that's why I say the expense ratios within mutual funds, sometimes it's not as transparent as it should be. But the 0.20% to participate into deferred comp, that actually comes out of your account. And before you say, well, hey, 0.20%, I shouldn't have to pay anything, or that seems a little high, I encourage you, go to a brokerage company or go to Schwab or wherever and see exactly how much they charge on their end. And you'll see 0.20% is really not that much. Okay. There is another question. Can you do both a 457B and a Roth IRA via paycheck? Okay, that's an excellent question. Quick note, there's no such thing as a Roth IRA in deferred comp. Okay, it's a Roth 457B. So if the question is, can I contribute to the pre-tax version of deferred comp or the Roth version of deferred comp, the answer is yes, you can. You can do both. You cannot exceed the max between the two. So there was another question here. Is the max 23,000 for each? And the answer is no. You cannot exceed 23,000 between the two. Or if you're 50 and over, you cannot exceed 30,500 between the two. Okay. And there's another question about a Roth IRA. The question is, can I contribute to deferred comp, whether it be the Roth or the 457B before tax, and a Roth IRA at the same time, if you can afford to do it? And the answer is yes, you can do both. Now, if you were investing in a 401k or 403B, then you couldn't participate in a Roth IRA on the outside. But the answer is yes, you can do both. Now that 7,000 may or may not be allowable for you. And what I mean by that, there are income restrictions on how much you can contribute or even contribute at all to a Roth IRA. Okay. Here with deferred comp, I don't care how much money you make with the county, you can make $1 million with the county. There are no income restrictions. You can put money in a Roth, in the Roth version of deferred comp. Okay. There's another question here. Is some years back, while Prudential was handling deferred comp, Alameda County employees were told that the fees had been removed. Was it reintroduced with Empower? They were told the fees were removed. The only thing I can remember way back when was the county used to charge $3.36 per month to participate in deferred comp, and that did go away. And the fees were reintroduced. Matter of fact, I believe a letter went out. So reach out to me, whoever's asking that question about the fees, reach out to me because I remember, I think it was October of 2021 or 2022, where they talked about fees or reintroducing fees. So we can, I can look back through my notes, through letters to see if I can find, but I'm fairly confident that many of you would have received that letter to let folks know that there's going to be a new fee associated with deferred comp. Okay. Let's see. You're assuming I'm going to share some contact information. I will do that. Let me finish this presentation. Empower is here to help. I'm here to help. You can contact Empower at this 855 number, 855-969-4572. Hit option 1. My Financial Path is a great tool to kind of give you an idea of where you stand in terms of retirement or where you stand in terms of debt, saving towards children's education, et cetera. So that's a great tool. There are 3 fantastic financial consultants that are here to help you. There's Mark on the left, Jason on the right. You have myself in the middle. You can contact this 855 number to reach out to us, or if you're interested in reaching out directly to me, I can be reached at 510-562-6355 is my phone number. Or if you want, you can email me at g.hilliard, Hilliard, HILLIARD, at emergefinancial.com. So shoot me an email, give me a call. You can also log on to the Empower site, which is at AlamedaCountyDCP.com. Click on, I think it says meet your financial consultants. So if you clicked on that, then you're going to scroll down and you're going to see Mark's picture, my picture, Jason, and then there's going to be a button there where you can schedule an appointment. So it'll be my pleasure and my honor to help you out. And I just want to leave folks with this. Retirement's going to be here before you know it. I've been working with county employees for the last 15 years, and the magic number for people to start getting stressed out about retirement is 50. So if you're under 50, just know that eventually 50 is going to get here, and you may or may not have wasted some time. You could have been putting some money away. Okay. So I encourage you to do that. I also encourage you, talk to the most experienced person in your department and ask them about deferred comp. And I'm fairly certain 99.9% of those folks are going to say, hey, deferred comp's a good thing. I wish I would have done it sooner. Okay. Money is power. That gives you more options as you get closer and closer to retirement. Or maybe you want to retire sooner. There are quite a few folks who come to me in their mid-30s and say, Gene, my plan is to work with the county until I'm 55. And my plan is also to maybe do something that I love, but I want to make sure I create enough income by age 55. And a lot of folks are able to do that. And that's going to require significant sacrifice on the front end, but it can be done. You don't want to be put in a position where you're forced out and no money in deferred comp. So if and when the time comes for you to move on, despite whatever your age might be, it's important to have some money set aside for your future. Okay, and it'll be my pleasure, my honor to help you out in any way I can. Doesn't cost you anything, so take advantage of it. Okay, so with that, I will love to entertain questions folks might have.